to our regular scheduled City Council meeting. Today is October 21st, 2014, and it is 6 p.m. I do call this meeting to order, and we are going to start with the Youth of the Month, and we have a group of students from Waupaca High School, the FFA organization, that is going to come up.
Miss Service.
Yeah, she doesn't want to come up.
She doesn't.
No. There we go. Good job. I don't know. Go ahead and introduce you guys yourselves first, or whatever. You guys do whatever. Well, hold on a second now. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance after you're done, and then you can lead us in the pledge, all right? So.
Good evening.
It is? Let me see. Yep, you're good.
Good evening. My name is Caleb Ham, and I am a Vice President of the Waupaca FFA chapter. First, I would like to thank you all for giving us this time to present on the achievements of our chapter. Secondly, I wish to share that our chapter is first in the state this year. This is the 4th year in a row and the 9th out of the last 16. The Waupaca FFA would not be able to achieve this great honor if it were not for the support of our city and our community members. On behalf of the FFA, I would like to thank you all for this support. It is greatly appreciated. Now I'd like you all to give your attention to my fellow officer members because they all have a short speech to give of some of our achievements. Aaron, would you please give your presentation?
The FFA Proficiency Award Program helps FFA members set goals and learn practical skills within their Supervised Agriculture Experience, or SAA program. The program awards FFA members at the local, state, and national level for excellence in their SAE program. A student's Supervised Agriculture Experience program forms the basis of a proficiency degree program. The SAEs are planned practical experiences outside of the classroom that help students develop and apply agriculture knowledge skills learned inside the classroom. In other words, we take what we learn inside the classroom and apply them at home or in the community. There are 2 types of proficiency award programs. The first is called placement. It is for work or experience only paid or unpaid SAE programs. Some examples may be working at a house, volunteering at a veterinary clinic, working on a dairy farm, or volunteering for a horse stable. The second proficiency area is entrepreneurship. This is for SAE programs that involve ownership of an agriculture, production, or business. Some examples are if an FFA member owns horses, livestock, land, or machinery. There are 49 different proficiency award areas a FFA member can be eligible for. Everything from beef, swine, ag mechanics, wildlife, small animal crop production, forest management, outdoor recreation, food production, agriculture education, and the list goes on. Basically anything that has to do with agriculture a student can do an SAE for. The proficiency program is not just for farm kids. Any FFA member can have a supervised agricultural experience program. The agriculture industry needs many qualified employees in many different areas, including agricultural processing, landscape, wildlife, and many other areas. A FFA member can live in the city of Waupaca, volunteer or work at the local pet store, and have a supervised agricultural experience program and a proficiency in the area of small animals. A student can work at Fleet Farm or have a SAE in agriculture business. A student can work for the city of Waupaca and help keep city parks clean and have a SAE in outdoor recreation. The proficiency application is an extensive look into a student's SAE. Application involves goal setting, accurate record keeping of skills, hours, and finances, pictures, a resume, and letter of recommendation. Each application is judged and given a bronze, silver, gold, and top 10 ranking. The top proficiency goes on to compete at the national level. The Waupaca FFA chapter sent 27 proficiencies to the state level. We had 0 bronze, 4 silver, 23 gold, 23 top 10, and 6 number 1s, which will compete at the national level.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alicia Riley. I am currently serving as the 2014-2015 chapter reporter. Over the last 20 years, the Waupaca FFA chapter has had over 198 state degree recipients and 98 national degree recipients. There's important requirements to earn these degrees, and all of them revolved around the SAE program. Some of the requirements for state degrees are 2 years of membership, 2 years of education classes. They should have invested $1,000 into their SAE, should have at least 300 hours of community service. No, I'm reading this wrong. 300 hours of project time outside of the classroom, and have 25 hours of community service. To earn a national degree, you should be a member for 3 years, have graduated from high school, enrolled in 3 years of ag classes, invested $7,500 into your SAE, and have 50 hours of community service. I find it absolutely amazing that so many of our chapter members have earned so many state and national degrees.
Hi, my name is Jenna Poggle, and I'm a sophomore and serve as the historian on the Waupaca FFA officer team. I'm going to tell you about the success that Waupaca FFA members have at the state and national level for speaking contests. Creed speaking is for freshmen in the FFA, which 4 have gone to state and 1 has gone to nationals for. Prepared speaking, extemporaneous speaking, and job interview is for anyone grades 10 and up. 5 people have gone to state, and 1 has gone to nationals for prepared speaking. 6 people have gone to state for extemporaneous, and 5 people have gone on to state for job interview. 6 people have gone on to state for parliamentary procedure. 10 teams have gone on to state for opening and closing ceremony, and 8 middle school quiz bowl teams have gone on to state.
Good evening. My name is Sherrod Borntrigger. I'm serving as the Vice President this year. I have the privilege tonight telling you just one of the many ways that we serve our community. That would be through concession stands. This past year that we have run the boys varsity football game concession stands, as well as we are doing the basketball this year. For the past 30 years we have been doing this. All the money that is raised through the concession stands directly benefits all the students that are a part of FFA. All that money reduces the cost to go to leadership conferences, as well as both state and national conferences and conventions.
Hi, I'm Brett Koski. This is my 2nd year in the Waupaca FFA. I am the sentinel on the officer team. Twice a year, members plan and implement a highway cleanup along Highway 22 by the high school. The community service project really makes a difference because we have collected a ton of garbage over the years. Another service project that members are involved in is Bread Basket of Emmanuel Lutheran in November and April. The menu is spaghetti and sauce, garlic bread, a tossed salad, and homemade desserts with milk and water. The service project is greatly appreciated by those it affects. In April, we served over 330 people.
Hi, I'm Leah Piotr. I am currently serving as this year's officer at large in our PAC FFA team. This fall, on October 5th, many FFA members participated in our annual Farm Fest. This is a day where many families come together to participate in activities such as corn mazes, face painting, hay rides, and many more attractions to see, like, for example, the petting zoo. This year, over 1,000 people came to Turner's Fresh Market and Riley Crest Farms. Also, Day on the Farm is held every spring at Doug Abrahamson's farm located on Highway 49. The main goal is to teach 4th graders about farm safety, animals, and machinery. Students are given a tour of Doug's milking parlor also. This is a time for these students to learn about what it's like to live on a farm.
Hi, I'm Taylor Eilers. I am this year's treasurer for Waupaca FFA. And another aspect of the Waupaca FFA is what we call real-world simulations. which is where students have the opportunity to work in an environment closely related to a company or a business. Two examples of FFA real-world simulations are the greenhouse operation and the Comet Central. FFA members, as well as horticulture students, are in charge of preparing and implementing all aspects of the agri-science greenhouse every year. This includes seeding, planting, transplanting, watering, monitoring plant growth, and creating price sheets and promotional flyers. The second simulation FFA members partake in is managing the Comet Central, which is our school store. We, along with Ms. Lehman's entrepreneur class, select products to sell. We price them and advertise the products such as hats, jackets, lanyards, and water bottles, all with the Comet logo. Thank you so much for taking the time to understand more about Waupaca FFA. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have a certificate of recognition for each one of you, and I'll just hand them to you, and you can pass them out if that's okay. Thank you very much for coming, and before you leave, we would like to have you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Just turn and face the flag anytime you're ready.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. Thank you for coming. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Herb.
Part of it. Okay, we're going to have Sandy read the clerk's open meeting statement for us.
This meeting and all other meetings of the Common Council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes, so that citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
Thank you, and would you take roll also first?
Brian Smith.
Here.
Steve Hackett. Here. Deb Fensky. Here. Paul Hagan.
Here.
Alan Keeland.
Here.
Scott Perchatsky.
Here.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paul Mayo.
Here.
John Lockwood.
Here.
Jillian Peterson. Here. And Eric Olson.
Here.
10 present. We have a quorum.
Thanks. You have a consent agenda in front of you. One thing I want to tell you, the way you have the agenda today, I'm going to switch it around just a little bit, where you have under announcements, number 1, the presentation of the plaque. We're just going to do that under department announcements and reports, so we'll skip over that and just go to letter C. Department heads, we're going to go in reverse order, so as we normally do, so we're going to start with Henry this time, so Gene will be at the end of that. Okay? So we understand. Okay, consent agenda. You have items on the consent agenda. Sandy, any additional handouts?
Yes, under letter D, item number 8, the minutes of a regular meeting of the Waupaca Senior Center Advisory Board were distributed. And under letter E, invoice number 8464-09-14 from Casing and Associates, Inc., in the amount of $167.27 for Hillcrest Drive and Fulton Street was distributed. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Sandy. Any items that council members or staff would like to see moved from the consent agenda to the regular agenda where you would vote on them individually instead of as a group? Any consent agenda item changes? If not, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda with those additions.
Move to approve as amended.
Motion by Keelan, second by Lockwood, that we approve the consent agenda with those additions. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Under regular agenda, just that one thing that I told you about before, there are no additional handouts. Council members, we okay with what you see on that agenda? If so, we would need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the agenda with the changes.
Second.
Motion by Hackett, second by Keelan, that we approve of the regular agenda. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Okay, under non-agenda items and announcements, we have the public input part of our meeting. This is available for anybody that's in the audience that would like to speak to us on a non-agenda item. If you would, just please step up to the podium, give your name and address for the record. Anybody that would like to speak to us on a non-agenda item? If not, we'll move ahead to department announcements and reports. I know you're going to hear a lot from the department heads throughout the night here, because when we get into the budget discussion, they again are going to be talking to you a little bit about this. But this is just to get you up to date on what's going on with them and their day-to-day work. So we're going to start with Henry.
Thanks, Mayor. As somebody who is at the end of the alphabet, I feel a little bit like I'm in grade school when Sister Mary Alice threw me the curveball and made me go first. Anyways, just a couple things. Absentee voting, just to for the public's
I think you're going to be first from now on.
Absentee voting hours are open for the next 2 weeks from 8 till 4.
This week it's 8 till 4,
And
next
then
week's 8 till
till
5.
5. So please be aware of that. The last month spent some time working with the department heads and Gene on the budgets, as well as meeting with the mayor to get some direction on the final draft. And then spent some time on the job description study that's on the agenda for you. And I'm sure we'll get into more discussion of that. And then finally, our office worked very hard to try to figure out how to get Jeannie's plaque together to present to her. And maybe you'll figure that out a little bit later. So, anyways, that's all I have, Mayor.
All right. Can't wait. Chief Golk.
Thanks, Mayor. My memo and report is in the packet. Just to highlight a couple of things. At 75% of the budget year, we're at just slightly over 73%. We had our last of a couple years participating in the drug take-back program, and is no longer being funded by the federal government. And due to the high costs associated with disposing of prescription medications, we're no longer capable of doing that. There is an interim collection site at the sheriff's office. I'm not sure how long they'll maintain that, but that is still open during normal business hours. We collected about 80 pounds during our last collection date, which was a couple weeks ago, and the rest is informational.
All right. Thanks, Chief. Aaron, Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Mayor. My report is in your packet. I want to touch on a couple things that were not included that have started over the last few weeks. The Augie Austin roof is under construction right now, started on Monday, should be done tomorrow if everything goes well, at the latest Thursday. It doesn't look like any rain for tomorrow, so everything is on track for that. There was a gym closure just during the day as some dust and debris was in the gym, but everything's open tonight and leagues are running. Swan Park, the part of the Sled Hill project, we do have American Asphalt came in and prepped the new parking lot and walking trail towards the concessions. They will hopefully be paving on Thursday, depending on weather again. We are working on a tree drop permit for, actually fish sticks is actually technically the name for the permit for Mirror Lake. This is through Mirror and Shadow Lake, the Friends of Mirror and Shadow Lake, and there have been a lot of residents on the Mirror Lake area that have expressed interest in that. And what it is this permit is good for 5 years. So anyone interested in the next 5 years, we have to mark that down, mark that on the permit, and then that work can get done over that time period. This will be very similar, pretty much the same project as you saw on Shadow Lake this last winter. Programs that are running right now: youth volleyball, youth flag football, those wrap up this weekend. We have our tournaments at the Rec Center and Swan Park. Women's, men's, and co-ed volleyball are all running at the Rec Center Monday through Thursday nights. Youth gymnastics, we have a community Packer party this Sunday. That will be at Swan Park. Concessions will be open, and that is a 7 o'clock game So we'd like to see everyone out there. It's free for the community. It's on a big 16:9 screen, just like the movie in the park was. So that should be a good time. It looks like it's going to be almost 70 degrees, so that'd be perfect. Senior programs are running as usual. Halloween event next Friday. That's a free to the community 2-hour, 3 to 5 o'clock before trick-or-treating in the rec center. We're typically accustomed to seeing about 200 people at that. New programs, we're talking with the Department of Health and Human Services at the county about a mentoring program, and we're also we met with them today. We're also meeting with Big Brothers, Big Sisters organization tomorrow to try to get some details. Events, we have a Winter Rec Fest that we're going to be planning shortly after the Halloween event. That would be kind of a grand opening for our sled hill. We're looking at sometime in January. Do not have a date nailed down yet. It'll be either late January or early February. And we're also going to try to steal a page out of the Rotary book. I know Rotary had the family game night a couple of years. We're going to try to bring that back here this winter as well. YMCA, we met with them last Monday as a community board, basically just informational as far as the history of the YMCA, board member expectations, and then they did say that the YMCA is set to open in mid-December. The changes you will see is mainly at the Highway 22 location where there will be, signage, logo, branding, paint schemes, things like that, and a few more pieces of equipment, new equipment. Otherwise, it'll be a lot of the same for the near future. We'll learn more as we get into further meetings. And then the Lower South Park fishing dock will be under construction. Josh, our park supervisor, is coming back this week from a vacation. We're going to set a date for the Foundry wants to send some volunteers to help out with that. If you remember, they donated $4,700 for the redecking of that fishing dock. And that is all I have, Mayor.
All right, thanks, Aaron. John Edelbeck, Public Works.
Okay, under our water section, we are completing the Royalton Street Water Main Improvement Project, providing better water service to 3 homes along Royalton Street. That project's wrapping up, and we're testing the water main at this time. And hydrant flushing was completed in the last month as well. Regarding leaves, get your leaves on the curb. We've started leaf pickup. The schedule was sent out with your water and sewer bill this year. If you have any questions, you can contact the city as well, or look on the city website for the schedule. But if you put the curbs out, if you put the leaves out on the curb, they will get picked up. We ask you to keep them on the parkway and not on the street, because if you put them on the street, they will end up in the storm sewers. And then that's a problem for us down the road, literally down the road. We've submitted our lake grant reimbursement with the DNR. We should be receiving that money back shortly for the inland lakes. We've been doing a little bit with our GIS utility mapping. We're going to be doing some training tomorrow regarding GIS, water, sewer, storm, and different layers on our utilities. We hired 2 new wastewater operators. We've had 2 resignations this last year, and last week and this week we've had the 2 new operators start. So if you do see them, wish them well. I think we've got 2 good hires there. We're working with AT&T on some pole removals. You might have seen that around town. There's some old poles that were switched out. On every telephone pole, or most telephone poles, there's cable, telephone, electric. Some of it has county fiber optic. And to coordinate all of those utilities when there's a pole switch out is quite a bit of work. AT&T is really the last utility now to get those switched out so we can eliminate some redundant poles. Grit separator project at the wastewater treatment plant was awarded, and we're awaiting delivery of that for installation. That'll be a nice improvement for us there. You probably have seen our street department crews getting some crack filling work done, some asphalt work, some concrete work. Again, we're trying to wrap things up here. It's already the 3rd week of October, and weather will be turning shortly. We completed all of our drainage improvements from the major rainstorm that we had. The last project was some drainage work on Timber Drive. It's a side yard easement that drains a city storm sewer, and it did have some substantial erosion there that we were able to remedy. We've got some DOT reports coming up. Again, my report is on page 42 of your packet here, and we will be scheduling our winter snow meeting I'm wondering if I wait till February, if that would work, do you think? We just push that off, the winter snow meeting, so. These guys are smarter than me. They prepare for winter before we have our snow meeting, so. I would think we're probably starting to think in those terms right now, so. In my report, I've set up short-term, mid-term, and long-term projects and aspects that we're working on here. So again, that's on page 42 of your packet. And with 75% of the year, fiscal year complete, street division is at 72, water is at 72, and sewer is at 60% of the expense budget, with our snow and ice control budget at 96%. That's all I had, Mayor.
Awesome, thanks, John. Can you just let them know if you know where we are with the project out on the west side of town?
Well, I was out there today. It looks like all of the hard pavement work is completed. They've pulled back all of the, they've done all the pavement striping. They've pulled back all the barricades. I think where they're at now is waiting for delivery of the streetlights, is what it looks like to me. I haven't been going to their project meetings, but again, all the pavement lines are striped, the islands are poured, all of the hard surface work is done, and that temporary signals will be removed once the permanent poles are installed, traffic signal poles. There will be a flashing green arrow, allowable left turn with a flashing yellow arrow. We've seen those in some of the other cities around the state. That will be at that location. I have some information if you're interested in that. We will be disseminating some of that information to the press. I believe there's probably something already sent out with the city website and city Facebook site and such. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but that flashing yellow arrow means that left turn is allowable, proceed with caution. So it would be similar to where we used to have the green arrow, then the green arrow went away and there was nothing. You could still make a left turn with caution. This is just going to, again, allow that left turn movement, but to proceed with caution as you turn. So evidently statistics show that it's a safer means of communicating to the motorist, and you're seeing more of the new, or all the new signals being installed with those.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Yep.
Okay, Brennan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep my report short so I can pass my time on to Jean this evening so she can enlighten us on her years here at the city. Focusing on a couple of the items for the strategic plan that I've been working on. Last month, the city held a downtown business forum, and this is separate from the visioning committee project that we have going on right now for Main Street, but in light of some concerns by some property owners and business owners on Main Street, we held a business forum last month. It was very well attended and received. I believe we sent out about 160 notifications to property owners and business owners within the visioning committee area, and we had probably about 50 or 60 different applicants actually show up to that meeting. And it was about a 2-hour meeting that was facilitated by Nalita Burr with WEDC. And there was some great discussion with the first part of the meeting was more along the lines of some best practices for downtown redevelopment. And then the second half of the meeting, we kind of had an open discussion, organized, identifying some of the problems and some of the concerns and some potential action strategies. I've been working with both of the interns that are in the office right now, and have a survey that hopefully will be sent out by the end of this week to everybody that attended that meeting to identify kind of the top 3 items that they feel are the most important to work on. And then hopefully going to have a follow-up meeting by the end of this year. It's going to get a little tight with Thanksgiving and then going into the Christmas season, especially for some of the small businesses. But hopefully going to have a follow-up meeting that will kind of hopefully grow into a working committee with the business owners going into 2015 for some opportunities for redevelopment in the downtown, some action strategies in a cohesive collective group. On the Main Street side of it, we had a meeting last evening where Eric Fall and myself presented to the vision committee some options, some considerations, and we've I think have a draft conceptual plan for redevelopment in the downtown area, and we also presented to the committee some very, very conceptual draft street sections. One of the goals of that committee is hopefully going to develop some consensus of what we're looking for as it relates to the reconstruction of main streets, different street sections, potential for wider sidewalks or different pedestrian amenities we would like to put back into the area. After that meeting, we have the next one scheduled for December 1st, and I think we're going to bring back some more detail at that meeting. We've kind of narrowed it down to 3 or 4 ideas in street sections that we'd like to fine-tune a little bit before we present it to the public for comments. If everyone saw within the City Hall area and the lobby area, we had boards out for a couple months and definitely got some great feedback about what Waupaca was missing, good and bad. Some interesting comments as well. So we're taking that under advisement and we'll include that within the final report. With that, we're also with the one intern that I have right now working on the Main Street web page. That's continuing to be updated. That's kind of turned into, I think, a web page for Main Street itself and the businesses. Hoping to, by the end of this year, not only implement on the city's community and economic development website, but also the Main Street website, a feature that will allow business owners and property owners to actually list properties, and we want to work with them to help them try to redevelop their businesses or find tenants to actually move into those spaces. So looking to implement some of that by the end of this year. Project-wise, there's a couple items on for tonight, but just for the council's benefit, some of the staff members and I have met with Dollar Tree and the representative along with the adjacent landowner. That project has kind of revived itself a bit with a smaller footprint, but they are still working out some private issues with the adjacent landowner, so we're still working on that. And last month there was a request that was brought in front of the council for a church located at 215 Jefferson Street. Since then, the applicant has withdrawn his petition for that location. We do have a new project actually that is coming up next month for a public hearing for an alternative use in that facility. So
Awesome.
that's all.
Thanks, Brennan. Thank you. Dominic?
Thanks, Mayor. We're about halfway done with the library's 5-year strategic plan. We should have a final plan by December or January at the latest. We do have a couple exhibits that are coming up. The first one is, or the one that's currently going on is for the Humane Society, and they're going through and trying to adopt pets. We have a couple of pets with people guarding them during the Saturday hours, and we're not guarding them, with them so that the kids can be there. And they're also adopting the stuffed animals. The Apron Chronicles, which is going to be the next exhibit, starts on November 10th, and that's a nationally touring exhibit. We're really excited to have that. And the other program that's coming up this week is going to be How to Speak Dog with Annie Hughes. It's learn what your dog is thinking, try to communicate with your pet. We hope that will be very well attended as well. The closing program that we had for our Mockingbird program for our community reads had over 140 people with Dr. Jack Rose speaking before the movie. That was really excellent. People really like to come and hear him speak, and if you haven't been, I strongly encourage you all to be there. That's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Dominic. Appreciate it. Paul Hagan, I wanted to thank you. I know you are the alternate for the library, and you were able to attend the meeting in place of, looks like Jillian, so appreciate that. You were able to be there. Thanks. Let's see. Gene, our city treasurer, Gene Peterson.
Just want to thank everybody. It's been a great 34 years. I've had a great time, a great career here. Worked with many, many terrific people, past and present. Thank you.
That is a little longer than normal, yeah.
You're not going to get off that easy.
Gene, if you would, could you come up here, please?
So you cannot hide behind your desk. So you got to say these things. Well, it's really my pleasure to be here to recognize Jean's time with the city. I've been here 16 plus years, and it's been fun to work with her. You are a woman of few words, but the words tend to carry a lot of weight. I think you get a lot of credit when we were really trying to pull through some difficult times beginning in '08. And many of the department heads were here during that time. And I think you did an admirable job in getting us through that. And there's no doubt we're in a better financial position than we were back in those periods. So you've done a great job for us. We struggled to figure out what to give you because you have to love this. I don't want no damn plaque. Okay? Because she got one at your 30th. And, you know, they're not too feminine, right? So, yeah, we don't want no damn plaque. So we struggled to figure out what to get her. So, here's your plaque.
No.
No. But,
Who are you talking to, Henry?
okay. Oh, jeez. All right. This is from everyone from the city. Okay. All right. Yeah, can you chug it? I couldn't find enough gluten-free beer to put in there for you. But anyways, it says, Gene L. Peterson, thank you for your 34 years of service to the citizens of the city of Waupaca, Wisconsin. Presented by the Mayor Council on the 21st day of October, 2014. So congratulations. And here's a chamber gift certificate. So. So you want anything else to say?
You know, she does have, it's pretty funny because Gina and I were talking about her last council meeting, and she knew that she had to say a few words, and she wasn't sure how she was going to do it. And she kind of dropped a bomb on me. She says to me, yeah, I've been keeping a diary of every month that I worked here. I think I'll just read out of that, she said. She didn't have a diary, though. But, Gene, thank you. I think that deserves, for what you've done, thank you very much. You don't live in the city, do you? Of course, we know her job is not done yet. Officially, her last day is what, the 31st? Yeah, absolutely. Nice job. Okay, let's move on to unfinished business. And this is the reconsideration of the special use permit for William Dujinsky for Dujinsky's Garage LLC, which is also known as Bill's Auto. Brennan, you want to just get us up to date on this?
Sure, I would like to pass my time over to Gene.
Again?
Just bring this back forward. This was sent back by the city council because the applicant had some concerns with some of the recommendations that the planning commission had set forward a month ago or a month and a half ago at a previous planning commission meeting. The applicant, since his last appearance in front of the city council, has constructed a shield or barrier along the Fulton Street area to minimize the visual impact of Fulton Street for all the tires that he does have to store outside. So that was brought forward back to the City Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission approved that construction of the fence, and also they removed the condition of requiring the applicant to stripe his parking lot. After further consideration and continued discussion with the applicant, they felt that it was not necessary. So this evening, we're bringing it back forward to the City Council for approval with those modifications.
Okay, so again, Council, you remember that this is under unfinished business because you did have this in front of you last meeting. And again, as Brennan said, the fence has been up. If you had a chance to take a look at it, it looks nice, although the tires are gone, but, for the time being, but it does look nice, and, that was a consensus of the commission to approve that with just the fencing part of that.
And I do want to say, I appreciate the applicant working with the city to at least minimize some of the visual impact with, I understand that, with his business, everything else is a necessary evil, but, going through this process, appreciate the applicant working with us on that.
Awesome. So we'd need a motion then to approve of this special use permit.
I'll move to approve special use permit.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Olson, that we approve of the special use permit for Dujenski Garage LLC. Any discussion? If not, Sandy will call the roll.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Deb Fensky,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Jillian Peterson,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
John Lockwood,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
and Steve Hackett.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
All right, awesome. Good luck, Bill. Next, we have ordinance number 0614. This is an ordinance amending Waupaca Municipal Code, Section 12.02, Parent 1A, Parent A, concerning application for license to sell or deal in alcohol beverages. This is the second reading of that. Henry, you did a little bit of research and...
Yes, sir. Normally, this would have been on your consent agenda because of the vote, but knowing that there was a lot of discussion and maybe still some unanswered questions, that it was decided to put it on here to discuss it. John Hart isn't available today, but I did double back with him. There was some maybe misunderstanding. This ordinance, as it was written, as it was presented last month, deals strictly with allowing the city clerk's office to issue the picnic licenses, the temporary Class B licenses, and does not have anything to do with the issuance of operators licenses out of my office. We did go back and we researched, and it's very clear in statutes that that is your authority and responsibility to approve operators licenses. Now, there is a provision for contingent license, I'm drawing a blank.
Provisional.
Provisional, excuse me. And I don't really see that as a need anymore. We have done that in the past, but because we have 2 meetings in a month, that we can accommodate, I think, 95% of anybody coming in for an operator's license, and a 3 to 5 day wait is not an unreasonable time period. So the main point here is this deals just with the picnic licenses. The last thing with Sandy's help, I did go back and query other jurisdictions to see how they handle the picnic licenses, and we've got probably 40 responses, and pretty much it's a horse apiece. Half of the places allowed the clerk's office to issue the provision or the picnic licenses, and the other half it was a council, village board, town board decision. So I don't know if that provides any more information to you. I'd be happy to try to answer any of your questions.
This is, this really has nothing to do with the application, but this is one of the discussions that we had about when we went from the 2 meetings to the, is that my microphone? When we went from the committee level to the 2 regular council meetings, ordinances, at least in this case, this ordinance was not run through a committee level, so I do believe that it needs to be put on the regular agenda anyways, because there has not officially been a decision by a committee, if you follow what I'm saying, and Sandy and I have had that discussion. So that's really why you're seeing an ordinance on the regular agenda, because of a committee not making that recommendation. So that's why you will vote on this as an individual item. Okay, hearing what Henry said, do we have a motion?
I'd move for approval.
Second.
A motion by Fensky, second by Keelan, that we approve of ordinance number 0614, 2014. This is an ordinance amending the Waupaca Municipal Code. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
John Lockwood,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Deb Fensky,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Jillian Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
and Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Yeah, under new business, we have the Waupaca Municipal Airport Ramp Taxiway Renovation Project. Paul Hagan.
Thank you, Mayor. On page 217 of your packet, you will see a letter from Pete Anderson regarding a section of pavement that has deteriorated a great deal out at the airport. A little history on this: back in 2009, 2010, there was a pavement analysis done, and at that point, there was not a huge amount of problems. This pavement is approximately 22 to 23 years old. Fast forward to this year, we had Michael Gabor, is that correct? Visit from the FHA, FFA, and the what he said was that this pavement was in bad shape and needs to be replaced. He gave us a estimate of approximately $900,000 for this particular pavement reconstruction. You'll see on page 219 a map of that section of pavement, and basically it's somewhat, it's right in front of the airport hangar, between the hangar and the fuel farm. There's pictures of the current condition on page 221 through 223, and Michael Gabor's pavement analysis on page 224. Of the actual cost of the approximately $900,000, our share would be, after we would use a credit that we have, approximately just shy of $39,000. And what I'm suggesting that we do is that we would add this cost to any capital borrowing that we may do, so this project could go forward. And at this time, what I'd like to do is to have Pete go over any details that I might have missed.
Mayor and Council, thanks for having me here this evening. With this project, is one thing that I'd ask you to consider and think of is when a person looks at the airport and they look at the ramp area, they look at it as a parking lot. And it's not as simple as that. We've got airplanes that are in there that are well worth $3-4 million. We've got airplanes in there that are $15,000 and $20,000. The thing is, we have a lot of expensive equipment out there. These have high performance engines on them. As a propeller type or a prop type airplane starts up, that propeller actually creates a vacuum. And what can happen is any debris that are falling apart from the asphalt gets pulled into that prop and or in possibly the jet engine. And of course at that point causes tremendous amount of damage, both to that prop and engine and or fuselage as it ricochets off. So our concern on keeping the ramp area in the best shape possible is basically truly a liability situation more than cosmetic. Like I said, you look at it and the average person will think, well, it's just a big parking lot for planes, but there's a lot more to put in the back of your mind when you consider what's happening. As Paul mentioned, and it was in the letter, the deterioration that's occurring is much more rapid than what we had in our 2010 report. We thought for sure we'd have, 15, 18 years, I think the projection was, before we had to consider it. And with the last few winters we've had, and of course last winter, it just sped up that deterioration to the point that it's into a situation that we have to really consider to have the reconstruction done for the liability purpose. I hope that's.
Was this done with when we put in the new runway? Was the overlay put on?
Only a small section of the ramp, which is not included in this, was reconstructed at that time. The part that we're looking at is approximately 23 to 25 years old. And it's spidered out pretty good. I did include the one in your packet, some pictures. Hopefully it depicted enough to show that it's really starting to deteriorate, that it's just kind of falling apart.
I didn't see it in here, and it might be in here, but when we do this project, what can we anticipate the estimated life of this? And to the second part of that too, obviously, without the help of the, who is it that's giving us the grant? The Department of?
It's the Department of Aeronautics.
Yeah.
BOA.
BOA, okay. I mean, can we expect in the future that we would get a grant similar to that? That's a great question. If we, when we need to do it?
As the future, as the breakdown occurs on taxiways and runways, it's a part of their plan to maintain the airport through the funds, through the Bureau of Aeronautics, providing those funds stay available. That's one thing that we're real pressing on. I know we've been very active at the airport and and very aggressive on getting equipment and everything that we needed out there over the past 5 years. The reason being is each year there has been a very real threat of reorganization of these funds, and that they will not be available to us like they are today. But
what's the life expectancy?
The life expectancy, I would say, is going to be about 25 to 30 years.
Right.
Again, that's because this would be reconstruction. It's just not a surface.
Okay, thanks, Pete. FYI, council members, when you see the budget tonight, that number will be part of the budget, of the borrow tonight. So you'll see that in there, okay?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Mayor, would there be action on this as part of the general budget proposal, or is there?
That's what I'm thinking, right? Yeah, I mean, we're gonna do it as part of the budget, so I'm not sure that we need to make a motion at this time.
That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's move on then to, this was another public hearing that we had in front of City Planning Commission. This is for a special use permit for B&F Enterprises LLC. Brennan, you want to set this up for us?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, I'm pleased to announce that hopefully we have a project moving in on Main Street in the former Edgewood Arts building. Staff received an application for a microbrewery and distillery to be located in the former Edgewood Arts building. This was approved at the Plan Commission last month this month and is being brought forward to you guys this evening. In the B2 Business District, this type of facility and application requires a special use permit. There's not many conditions tied to it due to the fact that it's within an existing building. The applicant is aware of building permits and requirements, sign permits. There will be at least a review of any exterior modifications brought through the Historic Preservation Committee. But a lot of this does hinge on the applicant getting his state and federal permits for the production of beer and wine / liquor at the facility. It's going to be two different entities on the inside of the building, but it'll look as one from the exterior of the building. There's two separate permits that the applicant will actually have to receive from the state and federal level, but from a localized level here, he just needs hopefully a special use permit from you guys. If there's any questions, Mr. Forseth, who's actually going to be the owner of the microbrewery slash distillery, is here in attendance this evening to answer any questions. But again, was supported by Plan Commission, made a recommendation to you guys this evening, and is supported by staff as well.
There was a public hearing, and there was no objections. There were a few.
A few individuals. State statutes require us to notify everyone within 250 feet. There was a couple property owners or business owners here that evening that spoke in favor and support of the project. You know, in discussions with our Main Street Downtown Business Forum and Main Street Vision Committee, that pretty much I'll say north of Fulton Street is difficult from a business standpoint in some respect, because a lot of people take a left off of Main Street down Fulton Street. So you know, from a vibrance perspective, we're hoping that this application, this business will actually bring some additional pedestrian activity to the north side, which will hopefully invite some other businesses to move into some of the other vacancies that we have on the north side. So we're definitely supportive of this project and working with the applicant and the other committees to hopefully find some other businesses going into 2015.
You can see from Brennan's summary, and I'm looking at page 231 in your packet, he is recommending that you approve this special use permit with those three requirements that he has in there. One is that this is awful small print even with my glasses on, but the applicant shall receive approval from the Historical Preservation Committee for all exterior building improvements, which Brennan brought up. If he does plan on putting up a sign, he'll need a sign permit that he applies for, and then also compliant with state and local building codes and so on and so forth.
And just for the council's benefit, there has been some discussion regarding this application. Because the applicant does have to receive state and federal approvals, it is to our knowledge right now that it does not count against the city's cap for the liquor licenses. We've done some extensive research on that, so that is a positive as well, that it typically will come with the actual permit received from the state. So it will not count against the cap that the city has right now.
Anybody else?
Brennan, how long is the process for the state and federal permits? How long do those usually take?
He's planning on...
Robert, can you answer that question?
I anticipate 6 months.
Really? Okay.
Because what has to happen first is that the renovations inside the building have to be done before you can even apply for them. So what we have to do, as Brendan already addressed, we have to create two entities within the building and have them sufficiently separate. So we would have to get that in place, and then we could apply for our permits at that time.
Was there a discussion about parking as to how that may change on that section of Main Street as far as once you get customers?
I expect our high traffic hours to be after 5 o'clock, and 5 o'clock on the north side of Main Street's pretty dead.
As it relates to the parking, I believe the applicant, there are several city parking lots that the employees will be encouraged to park there. And then again, in my times being downtown right now, there's definitely ample parking. And even with the visioning committee that we have going on right now, we are taking that into consideration, how we look at the parking short-term and long-term in the downtown area. And, you know, there could be a combination long-term of some new wayfinding signage that would direct into some of the city parking lots that are underutilized right now.
Thank you.
I just have
Parking would be a good problem. Deb.
We have a historic preservation meeting on Monday. Do you want this on the agenda? Because I could report anything you want then.
We'll bring it back probably in the next month. I mean, that's secondary in nature. I know that it has not been probably followed through in the past for some of from the businesses downtown. Scott Christie's the one that actually brought it to my department's attention, that some of the historic buildings in general, and since this property falls within the historic district, it was going to be more of a courtesy just to bring it through the historic preservation, but we will, and I appreciate that, Deb.
Okay.
I was not prepared for that yet, so.
Okay.
If I may too, our anticipation is not to do anything to the exterior of the building. And to interior-wise, we're looking to bring the historical aspects back. On the back side of the building, we might have to do some renovations, but that would be fairly minor.
Okay.
Is the city capped out now on licenses that we allow?
Well, as Brennan just said,
Said
go ahead,
it's gonna
Brennan.
come with the federal or whatever.
Yes, we are. We're actually over because of annexation over the years, and we've annexed properties in, not with the same amount of population that's come with us. So, not sure what that number is, but we are.
Yeah. Did you say that was a guarantee running the substance?
With the research and communication that between myself and Robert have had with the state, it appears that it will not, and I've had written documentation in my email that it will not count against the cap. It will, again, because this is a new business that's going to be producing and serving this, it will not count against the city's cap. Again, to the mayor's point, we are, I believe there's different licenses, and I'll refer to Henry or Sandy for this, but from my knowledge and research that I've done, the beer license, there's no cap on those. It's actually, I believe, the liquor license, and serving of that, and that's where, with the distillery aspect of it, that's where it's going to be key, for that component of it. But again, with the written communication that we have received, they shouldn't receive that permit when they get state and federal approval.
Anybody else? Motion?
I move to approve the special use permit for BNF Enterprises LLC.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Hagan, that we approve of this special use permit for BNF Enterprises LLC, which is located at 109 North Main Street. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Deb Fensky.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
I abstain.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Steve Hackett.
Aye.
Jillian Peterson.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
And John Lockwood.
Aye.
9 ayes and 1 abstain. Motion carried.
Yep. Good luck, Robert. Okay, next we have resolution number 1343. This is a resolution allowing the clerk, deputy clerk, or special registration deputies to conduct election day registrations.
Well, turn it over to Sandy, right? Because you're the one that initiated this.
Yeah, this is basically the GAB. It's a formality that the GAB requested that every municipality have in place. The statutes state that election day registrations must be done in front of a special registration deputy. It doesn't specify whether that's a clerk or deputy clerk or who it is. So the GAB suggested we all have a resolution in place so the deputy clerk, the clerk, or election workers could do election day registrations. So it's just a formality.
So we need a motion.
We need a motion.
Make a motion, we approve resolution number 1343.
Second.
Motion by Hackett, second by Lockwood, that we approve of resolution number 1343. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Jillian Peterson. Paul Mayo.
Aye.
John Lockwood.
Aye.
Deb Fensky.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Steve Hackett.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
And Dave Peterson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thanks, Sandy.
Mhm.
Just again, for your information, council, we're going to take a short break right before the letter H, which is the discussion of the budget. So we'll get through the rest of these alphabet here, and then we'll take a short break. Next, we have Parks and Recreation Department strategic plan for 2015 through 2019. Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, the plan starts on page 240 in your packet, goes to 282. Basically went through it with you last meeting. I didn't get any comments back from any council members or park board members. There are some grammatical changes in the report you see in your packet. Park board did support it at our last meeting, and I guess all I am asking is that council adopts the plan, if there are no questions.
Awesome.
I'd move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mayo, second by Fensky, that we approve of the Parks and Recreation Department strategic plan from 2015 through, their strategic plan 2015 through 2019. Any discussion? Again, as Aaron said, it was just brought back because he wanted to give his board the first opportunity to vote on this, and that's why we waited until now before we voted on it. Any other discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Jillian Peterson.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
John Lockwood.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Steve Hackett.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Deb Fensky.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
And Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you, everybody.
Next is license report number 1252. This is a bartender's or operator's license. It's on page 283. There are 3 individuals on there. Again, unless there's anything, we would need a motion to approve this.
Make a motion, we approve, license report 1252.
Second.
Motion by Hackett, second by Lockwood, that we approve of license report number 1252. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Next, we have a license report number 1253. This is a change of their agent for Vidal Hospitality LLC, Waupaca Ale House and Conference Center. And you can see that's on your, on page 284 of your packet.
I'd move for approval of license report 1253.
Second.
We have a motion by Hagan, second by Lockwood, that we approve of the license report number 1253, which is changing the agent for the liquor license at Vidal Hospitality LLC, Waupaca Ale House and Conference Center, to Ryan Jacobson as the new agent. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Okay, we have a job description update and performance evaluation tool development. Henry, you always come up with some interesting.
It's a mouthful, isn't it? This is starts on page 288 of your packet. I think the overview, you know, is right there. We had budgeted $20,000 in the 2014 budget to undertake a couple items in the personnel area. And when we were talking about the budget, this was brought up. We have job descriptions that are going on 15 years old. Through the course of time, new jobs have been created. We've condensed jobs, and it's just, you know, all over the board. We've got a couple things trending right now in the various departments where this makes a lot of sense. I know Brennan is looking at maybe some realignment of task in his area, and then with our new finance director coming in, and you approved reorganization to basically move one person from the clerk's budget and one person from human resources up under the new finance director's department. And one of her first tasks will be to look at all requirements of the jobs and make some judgments of, you know, workflow and those kind of things. So there's some things where the timing works out very well. The other piece of this is we've had a real hodgepodge of evaluation processes through the years. And I think it would be nice as part of this project to identify within everybody's job description some key measures to, so department managers will have, I think, a better tool to get input to their folks. You know, example, this might be an efficiency measure, maybe in my area, where, you know, you got to maybe reconcile bank accounts and you need to, you know, have pretty good efficiency and accuracy. So we had budgeted 20,000, and we have used some. The Code Red project, the city supported in at 2,600, and then had proposed when we started the city finance director recruitment that we were going to have some unbudgeted expenditures, and that it made some sense to maybe come out of that fund because we had some money. So basically, there's about 15,000 left in that account. And really the proposal is to bring on a consultant to assist us with writing the job descriptions and this evaluation tool. We have about 50 positions in the city. Now, a little anomaly here is that the library about 2 years ago started a rewrite of their job descriptions, and they completed it, and they're looking more for a review maybe on the labor legality side. Maybe they want some input on performance measures and that kind of thing. So I'm proposing here that the cost to that department is going to be a little bit less. We just don't have the capability and the staff to undertake anything within individual departments or as a city as a whole. So that's why I'm coming forward to ask your support for this. And then finally, before I take your questions, there is a timetable involved here, and assuming you're comfortable with approval today, I mean, we could get something out on the street and get going in the next month to 45 days to get the process rolling. I think this is a reasonable timeline, 6 to 8 months. We want to be real thorough, and it's going to take some effort on our department heads and some energy. I think John was here, was the only other department head here when we did this 15 years ago. And I've attached kind of a key tool in all of this where all our employees will be asked to complete a job questionnaire and try to assign times to it, you know, percentage of time. And you can see, well, this is one for a finance position, but you can kind of get a flavor for the amount of time that this could take in kind of review and massaging and those kind of things. So you can see that the proposed budget for it would be, you know, about 14,500, and we're right at about 15,000 in that account. So I don't know if you have any questions for me.
Scott?
Henry, do you expect this performance and evaluation tool you're going to have done to tie in with any type of compensation then in the future? You know, tie into raises or not?
Well, I, through the years, Scott, have brought forward the idea of doing a pay study, and that is not materialized, and I respect that. But I do see an opportunity for our top performers. The budget allows, and it would be up to you guys to make decisions of maybe providing some bonuses. But we got to get the job description, then we got to have the tools, then we got to test it. So I'm thinking, to your question, it would be maybe the 2017 budget before you'd even see any request to maybe budget a little money for bonuses or something for work above and beyond. Because we really don't have a tool now to reward really top behavior or means. And we have all of our employees.
Maybe their paycheck?
Yeah, I know. But, you know, professional organizations provide these opportunities, and I think we have some really good performers, and it's just a way to, you know, maybe recognize them if our budgets allow, and it's up to you. And there's nothing in here about a pay study trying to get grades adjusted or anything. This is purely align the job duties to the job descriptions to the duties.
Henry, I was here last year when this was talked about, but I don't remember us ever saying 20,000 was allocated for this project. But that being said, on page 288, right after where it says balance remaining 14,700, would you read that next paragraph and just tell me if what I read is actually what you meant to say? And I'm not trying to embarrass you, I didn't have time to call you at your office, otherwise I would have. But if we're gonna be approving something, either I misunderstood what
The
it's saying.
process and timeline?
Keep reading.
Yeah, this is a big task, and that's why cities bring in outside consultants. We do it all the time. We get help to do projects, and I think to have an objective set of eyes with, human resource professionals guiding us, helping us through the process. We don't do these every day. That's why I'm suggesting we get a little outside help.
Well, what I'm not understanding, and it's probably me, and I'm admitting it's me, but where it says with the job description rewrite only should be the cost of doing the performance measurement tools exceeds the budget, and I'm going, exceeds the budget? I don't understand what
Okay.
he's saying.
I'm working off a number from a year ago. I reached out to a consulting firm, and they gave me a number of about $150 per job description. And, without putting this out and getting a proposal, I did bump it up a little bit. But if the job description work ends up being $250 a job description, then we're not going to have enough money in the budget potentially, I don't know, to maybe do the evaluation tools, and we'll have to figure that out. But my plan at this point would get all of this done within the remaining budget that's available. That gives us the flexibility. If we don't do anything else, having good current job descriptions would be a really positive outcome. And then if we have enough money to take the next step, then we can take it. If we don't, then we can just drop back and relook at it, was my thinking.
Henry, does it make sense, since the library already did job descriptions, if the amount of money required to complete this exceeds what you have budgeted here or you have proposed here, would it make sense to exclude library descriptions since they just did that?
Well, yeah, and their format is a certain format. There might be some minor work to redo it, but there's probably some legalese, labor stuff that we got to add into it. But yeah, if we get to that point, I think we have some flexibility. But until we get the proposals, I won't know how it's going to shake out.
I have a question too, and this may be a dumb question. With the colleges we have around, would anybody want, do you think anybody would want to take this on as a project in a school? Or would, like the business department in Point, or HR, and I don't know where the main schools are, but Oshkosh, Appleton, and Point around here? I'm not trying to be cheap, but.
Well, that's certainly a possibility. We could, reach out. They could put proposals in if we can identify them. And I think in theory where you're going is if they've got cheaper help, their proposal should be cheaper. So I could certainly.
Less expensive.
Right. UWO has an MPA program, and I could look around. I think Milwaukee might offer some MPA opportunities. But yeah, my goal would be to get this out as much as we can. It would be a bad situation if we only got one submittal.
Yeah.
Because you'll never know if that's the best price.
Just an idea.
No, it's a good idea. I'd certainly reach out to them.
Go ahead, Jillian.
If we extended, I know this says like 6 to 8 months to get it all done, we put a larger timeline on it. Is it something that we could do in-house? I guess if the library was able to get it done, and I'm sure it was a lot of work, is it something that we could take on and put a larger timeline on and get it done in-house without spending $14,000?
I'm not a human resource professional, so at some point, we're gonna have to vet the job description. And maybe that's something we can do with how we put the proposal together, is to ask for options to save money. What could we do internally to reduce the cost of this project? And I could put something in the RFP document to get to that point, to allow, allow us the opportunity to save some money.
Where do you go to find somebody that just writes job descriptions?
Well, there's probably 3 or 4 firms I'm aware of in the state, Dave. I know the county just went through all this, and they did a much more extensive work. I know of a number of municipalities are taking projects like this on. There's firms out there.
Just looking at that sample you have there, how you like it set up, possibly
Yeah.
set up, does look like that. Budget enough money, you have a professional doing it. I don't know how long that takes to do each individual position.
Well, it takes, time of the employee and thoughtfulness, and, I know what we did the last time is we asked people to just take notes for a week. What are you doing? Keep notes of what you're doing, and then, come double back, and, there's some hand holding, because we'll have people in positions that, are gonna need some guidance in getting this through. And then the department heads will have to spend time on it, reviewing it, and making sure it's accurate. So it's gonna take some time, even with some outside help, to put the proposal together, to, evaluate them. You're gonna spend time reviewing proposals, getting it going, getting it organized. So it's not like we just pass the ball off and nobody internally is just sitting back and not doing anything. It's gonna take some effort.
Having the current employees and the department heads kind of set it up ahead of time, and then the professional person just comes in and refines it. They started from a blank page.
Well, I think they start from a blank page, but I think there's enough of activity out there. We have many similar jobs across a lot of cities, government, and county government. So, I think that should be reflected in their proposals. That efficiency, that they've done it, they've seen these jobs, and they've got templates, they've got some ideas that they can, help, and I guess that's all part of managing it and making sure you're getting the best price. Yeah. Well, what I can offer you,
And if you get it done in 14 months.
yeah. Well, I was given a budget number a year ago, and I'm assuming there's some inflation. But if you can always not pull the trigger if you're comfortable allowing the staff to put together the proposal and get proposals and then come back and make a final decision. And you can kind of see where it's all shaken out. I mean, that might be an option. I feel that that's not spinning our wheels. If for some reason the budget's not working, you're not feeling supportive of it, if allowing staff to at least get to that point, I think is important enough. I mean, these things are pretty tired, many of them. They need a little refreshing. And that doesn't cost but the staff time to put the proposal together, talk to potential offerers, and so.
So do you need a motion to do this?
If you're comfortable, again, I can get it to a point where it's not going to cost any money, but some time. I probably vet it with the department heads at our level to get something out, and just kind of see.
Well, let's find out what it's gonna cost us. We should
I can do that. I mean, and we can revisit it, and if you have questions, about the validity of doing this, talk to maybe other council members in other cities, or talk to the county, other I
Jeff, I was speaking for myself here when I said that out loud, though. I'm sorry. My thought was is that we just try and go out and get proposals and get a more accurate number before we actually approve this. Seems to make more sense to do that. I mean, you might be way off, you might be over, you might be under, who knows necessarily, although you did kind of get an idea the year before. Anybody else have any other questions on this? Otherwise, we'll table this. The only thing I want to be very careful of, Henry, and because I remember council last year when we were talking pay study, the council wanted to stay away from a pay study. So if evaluation tools means a pay study, we're not doing it.
I don't know that it does, Mayor. I mean,
I'm just saying, so I need a little further explanation, because if I read it, it looks like it is a pay study to me. So, I mean, I'm okay with doing the job description rewrite if you believe you can do it within, but we're not doing a pay study. So, as you go through that process.
That was to my point, usually that means, some kind of a structure that's used for merit raise or not merit raise. I don't want that.
It is not a pay study. It is not going to be forwarded job grades and people maybe not being in their grade and getting bumped up to the minimum of the salary range. This has nothing to do with that. This is getting a job description and developing a tool to evaluate people's jobs. We should be doing it right now where we got a lot of difference between departments. And the last time we did this, in hindsight's 2020, we had an evaluation tool for supervisors and one for everybody else. And all I heard was, well, it's not working for the police department. So they went out and did their thing. And the library developed, their own tool. And so now I envision each department would tailor make their tool to the jobs that they're independent, in their departments. And we'd have a more tailor-made form or process for those jobs in those departments. But it's not a pay study.
Well, okay, point taken, but again, going back to this, we don't pay for bonuses now. So, I mean, that would be something that council would have to decide before. We're not gonna do an evaluation tool unless we know council is in agreement that, Henry, you're doing a great job, we're gonna give you $500 at the end of the year. I mean, why do the evaluation tools if we're not in agreement that we're gonna do that? I mean, that's another discussion you need to have before you go there.
Well, and again, it's all budget driven, and whether you can, support that. But what I've learned from this, Mayor, is that it's going to take our organization 3 years to get this going. How many times have you been evaluated in your jobs? My boss doesn't know what I'm doing. We got to build support. We've got to figure out a way to do it. And it's going to take at least a couple of years to get anything in place that we feel real good about. And I hope we can get there, because there's always pushback in an organization. We don't have a strong union environment now, and we never really had the need to evaluate positions in the union. Well, now there's a need.
Dominic, you had a comment you wanted to make.
I was just going to say that I redid the job descriptions for the library, and I did develop the evaluation tool. The evaluation tool is just so the employee knows what kind of job they're doing, how they're doing, where they can improve, develop goals for them for the next year so that they know what's going on, supervisor knows what's going on, library personnel committee knows what's going on, so that everybody has a clear picture of what the expectations are and potentially how to move forward in the organization should that ever occur. So the evaluation tool for us is just so that the supervisor knows and the employee knows what's going on. And we do annual evaluations every year.
Sure. Okay. Thanks for clarifying what the library's doing. Not sure what it means here, but yeah, thank you. So, we're gonna look to see what it's gonna cost us, and Henry, you're gonna bring that back
Oh,
in a
yes.
future.
It'll be
council meeting.
probably 3 months, 2
Okay.
3 months.
All right, sounds good. We're gonna take a break of about 10 minutes here, and then we're gonna get into the budget process of this, and we're gonna go in the order, it's not in the same order in your packet, but we're gonna start with the water and sewer, the enterprise fund. So we're gonna do the water, sewer, and Waupaca online, and then we're gonna go to the tax-supported funds lastly. And that's not the order that it is in your packet, but as you page through that, you'll see that. But we stand adjourned for 10 minutes. Budget, if everyone's ready?
You're back on.
Awesome. Okay, we're back in regular session here. John, tell us again what page number that was that you were...
334.
Okay, and you are making the presentation?
I think
Or is
I am.
Gene?
On the entire water and sewer budget? Well, I'll give you the short version. How does that
Oh,
sound?
who's in charge of it?
I'll ask Gene and Henry
Yeah,
to
we can
assist me with that, but
Yep.
I can focus in on specifically capital items. Operations are pretty routine as far as budgeting for those on an annual basis, unless we have specific projects, sometimes fall into operations versus capital. However, if you go to page 344 is a list, and it's turned there, 90-degree angle, but a 5-year capital purchase plan, you can see in 2014 on page 344, that was approved last year or this year's budget for grit removal, and that's what we were talking about, that is we've awarded that contract and expect that here in the next month or two. 2015, from a capital standpoint.
Sewer, I think.
Are we talking water or
Sewer.
Oh, I'm
Get on
sorry.
water, Jeff. Yeah.
You know what page the capital for? Thank you. Yep, okay, sorry about that. 2014 water, we always put money aside for water main replacement work, similar to what we're doing in Royalton Street. Sometimes these projects are tied in specifically with road work. So depending on what road work is approved, we sometimes do recommend main replacement or sometimes a lateral service work. And that can get pricey, like State Street, Main Street, other projects we've done recently. So we do budget monies for main replacement. The skid steer, we're proposing to purchase a skid steer with some funding assistance with the street department. That's how we purchased the last skid steer. And we rented, with the use of one skid steer this year, we actually rented a skid steer during the winter because of the demands for snow removal by the street department and then water department trying to keep up with clearing of fire hydrants.
Henry, or John, so we didn't purchase these in 2014?
The skid steer was not approved in 14.
Okay.
We did have some water main replacement work, and that's funded out of capital.
Okay, so we're moving the skid steer into the 2015
Yes.
budget?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Public Works Building Design, there was no monies budgeted for that. This is an edit from a previous budget. Water main replacement, again, we show monies there. Account software, I can have Henry or Gene talk more about that. I believe it's our metering system and billing system that they're referring to. And then there is some proposed for sewer, water, and the general fund for Main Street planning. And this would be conceptual planning, which would be the next step after the visioning committee takes place, which would be concept planning for if that project desired to move forward for Main Street project. Beyond that, again, we do have some well rehab work that we envision. We couple our projects together to save a little bit of money in mobilization, so we have 2 and 4 are up in 16, and 3 and 5 are up in 18. Those are on about a 8-year rotation for routine inspection, cleaning, rehabilitation of those wells, screens, pumps, motors, and all that. We have the potential, we've always been budgeted in our 5-year plan, a new well construction. It would most likely be a safe drinking water loan or a DNR loan that we would pursue. At this point, you know, obviously in 2015, I would not see us drilling a new well, but that there is a potential for that down the road. So that would be on an as-needed basis. We do show it, however, a number of years out as a potential project.
John, probably the other point to make is there's no rate increase proposed for this year for the water fund.
If we look at 334, is there a reason why the revenues will be down?
I was wondering that too.
$7,000?
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not huge on a budget that big, but.
I'll have to ask Gene on that. I see 2,000 as interest on investments have been reduced from what was adopted last year.
I mean, even if you're looking at like it looks like you have a new code in there where you're doing multifamily.
Yeah, the Public Service Commission has modified the billing requirements for revenue. Gene did budget, it looks like here, a minor reduction in commercial, a increase in residential multifamily.
All I was doing was averaging out what came in this year. And if it wasn't coming in, that meant people are conserving their water.
Did the cold weather have anything to do with that?
Pardon?
The cold weather have anything to do with that? Where they were running their water all the time?
No.
Well, so the multifamily is partially why the residential is
Yes.
down,
Yeah,
and then
yes.
also, and the industrial is down quite a bit. That's part of the multifamily too then?
No.
No.
I think that's because of the reuse of water that the foundry has implemented over the years.
Yeah.
But wasn't there a lot of water usage too by the churney?
Yeah, that's a reduction also.
Yeah. And this is probably the first full year of that, huh?
And if you look at industrial,
14.
the 389 matches actual 2013 actual. It's pretty close. Public is the same number. Commercial is about the same as 13 compared to 15 proposed. And residential and multifamily is then an increase.
This is the first time I'm seeing this water and sewer budget too, everybody. But, Gene, we have to put a certain amount of money away, right, for capital that's budgeted in there? Is that right?
Water.
We don't have to, just
No,
for sewer?
That's just sewer.
Okay. So we're gonna show a surplus of, you're estimating 81,000 basically, and that just goes to the bottom line, the general fund of the water? So there's no plan for that money except to increase cash flow there?
Right.
Okay.
They can use that for, instead, to reduce borrows in the future. If they, you know, a well is a big borrow, they could at least use their bank account to do the preliminary work ahead of time for cash.
So the capital that John was talking about before, that would all be borrow? No?
No.
That's coming out of here too?
Yep.
Where does that show on here? Can you tell me what line?
I didn't know about the skidster thing being moved over because there was one purchased in 12 and 13. So I don't know what that was about. That's not in the 102.
Yeah, that needs to be included in 15 budget because that was not purchased in 14.
Yeah, but it wasn't moved out of water into 15. It's in our general borrow, but not, wasn't, never mind,
I get it. I know what you're talking about.
in the list that got.
Oh, I see where you're at that. Okay. That's on page 338. Okay. All right. Any questions? I know you guys have had it over the weekend, obviously, but to take a look at it. Any specific questions of council? I mean, I guess the bottom line here is that rates aren't going up.
Right. What's miscellaneous service, Gene, on the revenue side? It's line 47,110. What does that include? Or we had an actual of 19,013, but then it's 15 is $1,200. What is that?
I don't know off the top of my.
Oh.
I'd have to go back in history and look and see. It could have been some insurance settlements that land there at one time that aren't budgeted. It could just be odd invoices that go out to customers or to businesses.
Okay.
So if we go back to that, then where you have the proposed budget summary on page 334, the 2014 and 2015 are the budget amounts, but the prior years are all actual amounts or budget amounts?
Budgets.
Okay. And 2014 you think is going to come in at about $120,000 profit for the year?
I think they will. Because all of their revenues and expenses are tracking correctly with the line.
Okay. You else have any questions?
Yeah, the capital TIF loan, the 102,000, that's money that we're taking out of the water revenues to pay for our TIF debt. Is that right?
There's no TIF loan. That's all capital.
Those are two different
Oh,
columns.
okay.
That number will have to be updated though for the capital.
Yes.
So the profit will be that much less though, right?
Right, for cash flow.
Okay. What is we're governed by what's it called?
Public Service Commission regulates quite a bit about what we do with the water utility.
Do they tell us what we have to have? Do we have to have a positive number for a profit?
Yeah, they deal with rate of return. And we did an analysis last year, recall?
For a year. Yeah.
Our rate of return was 4% maybe?
4.
And anything below, I don't know, if you recall, 3% or 3.5%, you can proceed with a rate increase. So we were at our rate of return.
Okay, so showing, my question is going here, so if we put the skid steer in there for 2015, we're gonna show a profit of about $41,000. That doesn't hurt us?
No. Not the water.
Okay. You do not have to approve the water budget tonight if you don't want to. We still have time to do that in the future. If you feel comfortable with approving it tonight, you certainly can make that motion to approve it. If not, we'll just move on to the sewer unless you have some other questions.
Mayor, I'd move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayo, second by, was it Fensky? I'm sorry. Fensky, that we approve of the 2015, fiscal year 2015 water fund budget. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Deb Fensky.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Steve Hackett.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Jillian Peterson.
Aye.
And John Lockwood.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, and, John, you?
Yep, we can move on then to page 344 is the sewer department capital that I was referring to earlier. 2014, we did approve the grit removal replacement. 2015, our two main lift pumps, east and west screw pumps, are original from the project 20 years ago, are in need of rehabilitation, not replacement, but rehabilitation. We would take one of them out at a time each year for rehabilitation removal and rehab at a off-site location. We're estimating that $75,000 would be sufficient to do that. Again, there's Main Street planning monies proposed if that project is approved for the next step on Main Street. We're looking at a energy saving project at the in our blower building, where we would replace out some blowers and utilize, if possible, utilize focus on energy to go to a variable frequency drive on our blowers, and at least on one blower that can ramp up and down with the need for air in our aeration tanks, where the others are not variable speed and are either on or off. And accounting software, again, is a proposal that's looking to be cost shared between water, sewer, for billing purposes and management of our meter reading. 2016, we've got, again, the opposite west screw pump. We're looking at, this shows a public works building, but again, that's down the road. I don't know if 2016 is the year that will happen, but 2016, we also showed distributed control replacement. This would be our brains of our treatment plant. Again, this is a 20-year-old system. And the motor control unit, supervisory control unit for the plant is in need of replacement at this point. So we're keeping it going, and it's operating now, but we would be looking for a replacement down the road. We show a possible odor control project on our tanks, although that issue has seemed to have been addressed here in the last year, which is a real positive. And we'll be looking at possibly down the road, and we put this into our 5-year program now for a few years, ultraviolet disinfection to replace our chlorination, dechlorination system currently that we use, a chemical system for disinfection of our discharge water. This would be a different system that would utilize ultraviolet light to disable the microbes in that so they can't reproduce. If you have any questions on that, I could talk for a half hour about that, but other than that, our treatment plan, I think it's real important that we're kind of taking these pieces of equipment one step at a time when the timing is right for rehabilitation and or replacement. And again, we're looking at about a 20-year-old period of time since our last plant expansion that these pieces of equipment are in a very rough environment, and they do need to be addressed. So I think doing this in this manner, we can really manage our budget quite well on an ongoing basis.
So, Gene, my question before, which was in the water department, is that it seems like we had this discussion where we need to have a certain amount of money in our replacement account, and are we there?
We stopped doing it for about 6 years, and now we're able to put back into it.
So what do you
We're working up a new number with Kempfer Terranol from Kempfer and Associates that's helping us work up a new game plan of how much goes in. But right now we're doing $20,000 a month.
And
we're doing, I can't remember what it was 5 years ago when we stopped doing
That's okay. But we are putting money in
Yes.
there, and we're...
Yes, since the debt payment dropped off.
And there's no requirement of what we put in there? It wasn't...
Yeah, you have to, it's a percentage of the loan for the equipment that you bought when we did the plant. And now that plant loan has been paid off. Use that money that you're putting in there to do replacements of all of that stuff.
Which we have been using.
That's what we're using, and we drew it down for a lot of that.
If you look in the multi-year budget, you'll see replacement funds have been used on these projects out of that account. With the Chain Lake Sanitary District that we're renegotiating right now, we're doing an evaluation of costs, and the chain also pays in to that replacement fund. And that number is being reevaluated so that it's appropriate. And with that, there's an associated payment the city would make also to that account on a percentage share basis. So once we get those new numbers, then we'll be looking to fund that replacement account at that amount, and it'll be matched, will continue to be matched by the chain at their amount.
John, is this also Public Service Commission regulated?
No,
Okay.
it's not. Rate increases, all those are council decisions, council policy.
And there's no proposed rate increase here either.
Correct.
I mean, the bottom line is that if everything goes accordingly, I gotta get back up here, we're gonna add $173,000 to our fund balance at the end of the year for the sewer department, if that works. And for 2014, you had about 92,000, and it's looking good?
Yes.
Okay.
Very pleased with how this year turned out.
Okay. Awesome. So again, there is no rate increase being proposed here. The budget is here. You have the opportunity to approve that tonight, or we can put it off to a future meeting.
I'd move for approval of the sewer fund.
Second.
Budget.
A motion by Fensky, second by Keelan, that we approve of the fiscal year 2015 sewer fund budget. Any discussion?
One question I would have is that Main Street plan, if that doesn't get approved, then that 12,000 just stays in there?
Yeah, it's an enterprise fund. It will stay in that account if it's not spent. Same thing with capital. If we underspend capital, if we purchase a truck, if it was 10,000 less, it just stays in that account. Correct.
Question? Any other discussion? Sandy, will call the roll?
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Jillian Peterson, Deb Fensky,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
John Lockwood,
Aye.
and Paul Hagan.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Okay. Let's move on then to the last enterprise fund that we have, which is WaupacaOnline.net. I know Josh is here. I'm thinking Henry and John, or Henry and Josh are gonna go at it.
Okay, for next year, for our income, I'm predicting about $114,500, and that's just kind of based on what we're looking to hit for this year, and I feel it's a very safe estimate, and I predict we're going to see some more modest growth again next year, so hopefully that number is a little higher. At a future meeting, hopefully the next one, you're going to be hearing about a new proposed pricing structure. We're able to offer higher speed and want to get something in place for our customers to get that, and we're looking to offer more value for the current amount of money they're paying, which is good news, and I think that'll help bring up that revenue amount a little bit. I think that's a pretty safe estimate based on where we are right now. Expenses, if you look at the actual budget in your packet, you notice they're way over by a lot, and our AT&T termination penalties figured into that budget. We owe AT&T about $52,000, and we're still working with them to settle that. They show a willingness to want to settle somewhere in the middle or reach some sort of agreement with us, but every time we submit something to them, we go weeks or months and they just don't get back to us. So we've entered that process again, and we're trying to get that taken care of, and we talk to them and they never get back to us. So that's kind of where it's sitting right now. I think, 2-3 weeks ago we just submitted something new to them. Currently, we've got about 44,000 in reserves. That's the other aspect. No major changes are proposed to our expenses for next year. Everything's, relatively the same. I think over the past 2 years, we've really cleaned up that budget and taken out a lot of expenses, and we've changed how we've done some things to bring some costs down. But our whole budget can kind of be categorized into 5 areas: our bandwidth costs, which would be charter, and then this AT&T penalty. Our part-time staff and our tower climber. We've got our billing costs, which would be TNUB, BARB, all of our supplies, postage, our portion of the software maintenance agreement, and the auditing. Our network consultant, Ralph, and then our equipment and supplies is really kind of a summary of how the whole budget's set up. Excluding the whole AT&T penalty, which is kind of a separate thing, but it's in our budget, we're looking to be at the positive of about $8,000 next year if the budget goes as proposed. And then the other thing I want to touch on, we'll hopefully know by the end of this year if we get that Public Service Commission grant that we applied for. And regardless of if we get that grant or not, we're going to be moving along with some upgrades next year to continue to improve service and continue to get some better technology onto our system. If we don't get that grant, we're going to be moving at a more selective and much slower pace at that. And if we get the grant, that's going to go a lot quicker. And as we do those upgrades, we're talking even more speed we'll be able to do. And you'll hear more about kind of what we're looking at for speed, hopefully at the next meeting. Staff's kind of discussing a little more kind of what we're looking at to do with the rates, and we just got to finalize our thoughts on that before presenting that. But that, where we get with that plan shouldn't have any effect either way on what our predicted income is. And we're budgeted next year for about $5,100 for supplies and equipment, and that's where that money would come from as we continue upgrades and equipment replacements. That's kind of a overview of where we're kind of at for next year. If there's any questions or comments.
Do you have any questions?
Just to reiterate, the proposed pricing plan you're going to bring forward is really revenue neutral, right?
Pretty much. And hopefully it gets us more revenue. But, the kind of what we're going to talk about is going to pretty much leave us level, but it's going to give our customers a lot more value for what they're paying.
Yeah, said differently, no rate increase.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Rate, yep.
Where do you see our growth coming from, Josh?
Well, our biggest complaints out there are price and the speed we're able to offer. And right now, if you're connected to one of our towers that hasn't been fully upgraded, the most you can get is about 1.5 meg for bandwidth, which by today's standards isn't a lot. And right now, the most we're offering for customers on an upgraded tower is 3 meg, which is better, but still not a lot. And we're pretty close to the point where we've got most of the first round of upgrades done, and at minimum, a majority, it depends on location if it's a long-range customer, but a majority of our customers should be able to get at least 5 meg, and we'll talk about that more hopefully at the next meeting. We've got customers that we should be able to offer, some that will be able to do up to 8 meg to comfortably without causing bottlenecks on our system. So that's, I think we'll take care of that. And when you see this new proposed pricing structure, we want to propose to take our current customers, the speed they're at, depending upon which level they're at, and bump that speed up for the same amount they're paying right now. So they're going to get more value for what they're paying. And I think that helps a little bit on the price aspect. Our in-city rates, I think, are pretty comparable to what DSL is offering, which offers comparable speeds to what we have now or will be offering. Outside of the city, we're kind of high, and I think, as we review this, I think it'll help in that aspect. So we're going to have more speed and a little bit better pricing, and I think that'll help make us look a little more attractive to the customers, our potential customers. And then the other growth would be, if we've got someone that's at 1.5 meg right now and they go, hey, I want to get the 5 meg, it's going to, they're going to have to pay a little more per month to get to that level. So that's the other area we'll get some growth. And we know of, we've identified easily 24 customers that if we tell them they can get more speed, we know they're going to sign up for it. We went through the database, yeah, this one will, we know this one wants more. So as soon as we give them the okay, we anticipate they'll take advantage of that.
Are we, I know you have city expenses in here for labor and stuff like that. Are we covering city expenses?
The old budget, before we redid everything, paid a lot more to the city. Right now, we're covering Barb and Tina's actual time that they do for the work on billing, that they keep track of that in execu time, so our budget pays their time for that. And then we pay for all the paper, the envelopes, the postage, et cetera, that goes with that.
It doesn't pay for any of your labor?
No, it
Or
used to
Henry?
pay a lot for it used to pay a lot into my budget for labor, and they probably weren't getting anywhere near that out of me or my predecessor. So they were paying more for what they're getting now, but.
I'd move to approve the WaupacaOnline.net budget for 2015.
Second.
Motion by Mayo, second by Hagan, that we approve of the fiscal year 2015 WaupacaOnline.net budget. Any further discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Jillian Peterson.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Deb Fensky.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
John Lockwood.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
And Steve Hackett. 10 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, let's go to the tax-supported budget.
301, Mayor.
301, okay, thank you.
Page 301.
Just to set this up real quick, and then I'm gonna pass it on to Henry, who's gonna pass it on to Gene and the other department heads too, as we go through the process. The budget was, the department head's budget was presented to me at a meeting that we had, a budget meeting, I would say we'd have. It was department heads along with myself. I made some suggestions to them, and they did put those into their budget that you're seeing tonight. So there has been a revision made to what their proposed budget was already, but you're seeing that with those revisions in there. I don't, who's gonna touch on the highlight, is that where you're gonna wanna start, on the highlighted page? Is that you?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, Henry.
Okay, page 301, and I think that the mayor wanted us to kind of, once we get over the kind of general summaries, to move around to the various departments and tell you what their highlights are specifically. So if you'll turn to page 301, the total levy in the proposed budget's $3,539,632. This will meet our levy limit requirement. It's about $109,000 over the 2014 levy, or a little over 3%. It would result in a tax rate of about $10.26 per thousand. We're right at $9.89 now, or about a 37-cent increase, which is under 4%, 3.73. And again, over the last 5 budgets, the last 4 budgets, it did not result in any significant levy increase or tax rate increase. The big things to note on the revenue side, they reworked the formula, and we're down another $45,400 in road aids. There has been no change to recreation youth agreements. That's a fairly significant amount in our annual budgets. The library aids from the county are up about $9,700. We did budget our building permit fees down about 28%, which is $13,500 from last year. And we reduced what we had budgeted in land sales. I believe we had $130,000 in land sales last year, and we're down to 75 there on the revenue side. And then the expenditure side, again, this budget would qualify for an expenditure restraint payment in 2016. There is a wage increase at 2.5% for all full-time and permanent part-time employees. There is a proposal for one new full-time police officer that would be budgeted for a half year, and The net effect to that is about $21,000 to the police budget. There's an addition of $7,000 to the library part-time wages, and there is a debt payment of $90,000 in the proposed budget for debt service for next year, but it would cover 2 years of projects, and I will eventually get to a quick overview of that. The next page is the summary of the tax-supported funds. You're probably going to need to rotate the view to see it.
Control Shift minus.
Yeah. Is that what you do?
Or use
I
the-
go up to view.
Use
and
the rotate key on the top.
He's more advanced than but you could see the summary sheet of the different tax-supported funds. If you go all the way down to the bottom right corner, you can kind of see the history of our levy. In 2013, we did budget about $350,000 of reserves to meet our budget. But, you know, been pretty consistent on the levy through the past five budgets. The next sheet, where we're going to have to shift that one as well. Get to it.
Yeah, now you gotta shift back.
Okay. You have to shift back.
God, you are
Well, before we do that, well, this sheet just depicts each department, a comparison from the 2014 budget to 2015 budget, and we'll probably reference back to that, but you probably are going to have to go, I wanted to go to the TIF summary sheet, so you can see kind of the, page 325. So we're going to want to rotate that one again. This is a lot of information on one piece of paper, but I think it's important to hit it and discuss it. Is it 325? I got to get on the right page.
That's TIF cash flow.
Yes, sir. Yep. All right. So that very bottom right number, the 341,074, is appearing in your summary sheet that we just went over, the summary sheet for tax-supported funds. So that's where that number came from. And that's where, you know, it's we're requiring to fund that with taxes. But if you go to the middle of the sheet, you can see a couple items, total debt, but the next ones are more critical, I think. We charge an administrative expense to each TID. You know, my position's in there, the finance director, DPW, Brennan's position, and a little bit of Rhonda's position, I believe, because of GIS and mapping support and some support to John. The cash grant column, we have in here because if you remember through the last few years, we have done some development agreements that have cash grants. The $60,000 in TID 3 is to Centerline Machine. They had a total cash grant of $300,000, and that will be retired in 2015. So next year is the last year that Centerline Machine will get their cash grant. If you move over to TID 4, TID 4 is the DeVita Clinic, the former video store. And their total cash grant is $75,900, and 2015 will be their first payment of $10,000. And then TID 8, the $2,000, that's the Schmidt Boat Docks, total cash grant, $30,000. The 2015 payment is their first payment. It will be higher in 2016. This is for partially finished. They had a partial value and they weren't totally completed. and that was built into the cash grant schedule. The final column line here, other expenses, the 25,000 in TID 3 references a railway spur work that we're being required to do. And at some point, when we bring this forward, I think how we finance it is a discussion we probably got to have. Is this something we can special assess to the adjoining properties that are utilizing the rail? I think that's something council needs to discuss. And then the 20,000 in TID 8 is put in here because Brennan wanted to bring forth a project under our new economic development strategic plan. And I don't know if you want to discuss it briefly, but it would be focused in the TIF area, the East Gateway, to help with marketing. And he's got some ideas on that, and that would be brought forward in the coming months. So you can kind of see there's a lot of activity in the TIDs, and we just wanted to explain to you what those were. Are there any questions on those items? Okay. All right, and I think, Mayor, you want to hit the Capitol, or would you prefer to just go to the departments for their operation stuff?
Let's do Capitol.
Okay, so that would be the next page. Okay, rotate. Okay, so there's a cover memo here, again, just hitting the highlights. Right now, the proposed borrow. Oh, I'm sorry, 326, John. The total borrow amount would be $1,190,000, and this would include a fee paid to R.W. Baird to help us place this along with the trust fund and help structure it. This would fund projects for 2015 and 2016, and we'll go over the project list, but we had a number of discussions on this in the May, June timeframe, July, and vetted the list, and it was on the council's guidance that we went ahead. Remember, we looked at 4 options, and we put the option 4, and that's what's reflected in the borrow right now. It's a term of 10 years, and the proposed borrow does meet our debt policy. If you go down to the next page is the project list, and as the mayor had stated, if you go down a little bit, you can see the local share for the airport tarmac and taxiway reconstruction, 40,000. That's in there. To make room for that, the staff has reduced the City Hall Library renovation from 200 to 160. We also talked about trying to do the site analysis in-house for a public works facility. And the other reduction, I believe, is the, well, to arrive at the reduction in the City Hall Library renovation, we reduced interior painting from 40 to 20 and then eliminated the new landscaping sprinkler system out of there. So you can see the project list. It totals $1,173,000. There are a couple projects, and we talked about them in the water and sewer funds. Those are the financial management software, which, in addition to the billing and meter reading, John, I mean, there would be, you know, financial reporting, payroll, and that kind of thing. And then the downtown rehab project, the concept planning, we have that budgeted at $50,000. At this point, we are thinking of bringing forth a request to apply for a grant. We're not sure how successful it will be, but I think what the concept plan does, I think I described this to you before, the visioning kind of gets us out there, what we'd like to see, and the concept plan kind of puts meats on the bones of what the vision might cost. And once we have that type of document, we can use it to apply for grants and that kind of thing. And that that's exactly the process that was used, and with your support through the couple, 2-3 year period, we were able to get the South Park projects done. So you really kind of need a planning document that you can put forth to funding agencies and that kind of thing to maybe help us get grants if and when the decision is made to do the project. So you can see the project list that this is the option 4 that you authorized in the draft budget. And then finally, you can see, okay, we're going to have to rotate one more time, is the financing plan that Baird helped us put together. And that's page 328. And there is what they're characterizing as a prepayment, the $90,000 budgeted in 2015, and then you can see the balance of the payments are pretty level through the remainder of the schedule. And then finally, the next couple pages are just a visual depiction, a graphic depiction of our debt policy. And this borrow is clearly within, as it's configured now with the payment schedules, clearly within our debt policy. In 2015, we would, even with the new debt, we'd still have 68% capacity to get us up to our debt policy, which is at 3.75% of equalized value TID in. It's and total geo debt. And then the next graph depicts the second parameter that we have, which is 2.5% of all equalized value TID in and tax supported geo debt. And you can see we've got for 2015 we're about 35% capacity. So we're not pushing up to our capacity. There's plenty of room if something were to happen, an emergency, if you had the need to borrow in 2015. 2016, I think the expectation is this is a 1-year borrow for 2 years of projects. We essentially didn't do any projects in 2014, so we basically pushed them to 2015, and then the 2015 projects in the capital plan became 2016. So that is the capital. I don't know if there's any questions on that.
Is there any prepayment or early payment penalty on that loan?
I don't think there is. It's not like bonds where, there's a call date where you can't pay it off. I do believe that you can do that. There's certain windows of opportunities that you can, and I don't know what that rule is, but I can find that out before you adopt your budgets, if you want me to.
I'm just curious with money, the excess money that's going to come in a few years, if we had the opportunity to pay it off.
And let's see what I think they're showing 3.75% interest rate on the funds from the trust fund. To go back. 3.5. So that's the data. That's the borrowing.
Henry, can you refresh my memory as to what the rationale was going with the state trust fund versus going out?
Well, it's an easier placement. If we did this we're told that $1 million is sort of the sweet spot to do it with the trust fund because the issuance cost, you don't want to do bonds because the issuance cost is more proportionally. So to place this with state trust fund, it's less costly to do. It's a little bit easier. Baird would be helping, put together the financing schedule to present to the folks. And they are proposing a fee to help us with that. And then I guess
the total spent will be less than if we went.
Well, you know, I know the last time we placed the bond, but God, I think the issuance cost on a, well, I can't think of the last bond was, because we did state trust fund the last time.
But when it's like,
Yeah. And sometimes they'll, to try to get a better interest rate, you can buy bond insurance, which buys down the interest rate, and that's a cost that they put into the par amount of the bonds, and you borrow at, you know. So it's a little bit cleaner, but I can find out about that.
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea just to ask Brad again, if that's still, because that was a discussion Brad explained to us at the beginning of this process, but that was back in June or whatever, so it doesn't hurt to ask him again.
So I think we're now to the point where we can go around to the departments and sort of hit our high points. And I guess in keeping with me going first, okay, so in my area, probably the significant things to note is in the council budget, there's no $20,000. We just talked about that for the job description, so that's out of the budget. And I did talk about moving some expense from the clerk's budget to the new finance director's budget, and then the human resources personnel costs to the finance director's budget. There is about $12,000 in additional salary and fringes for the new finance director in the budget. About $2,500 of additional travel, training, and memberships for the 3 employees that are now within that, I guess, the new treasurer's budget. And then Win TV, IT Win TV's up a little bit, about $1,000 more for software, and then the wage increases. It's about $4,000 there.
What page are you on, Henry?
This is just my notes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'm just hitting the high points of the budgets that are within my purview. So I don't know if you have any questions. And that's probably where you want to go back to
304.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Where we have the comparisons for each department from 2014 to 2015. Yeah, it's 304. So I don't know if anybody has any further questions. That's really my highlights. Yeah, you can see, you know, the council budget's way down, that 20,000's out of there. And you can just go, I just won't repeat myself, so.
Well, in essence, though, what you're talking about is your budget actually goes down without that 20,000 in there, although you have some increases and so on. It goes down by about $8,000.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, but again, that $20,000 is, it's pretty significant in the budgets that, you know, I'm working with, so. The reduction, so, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Since we're talking about Henry's budget and council, I really would like to make a motion that the council members and the mayor get a raise. I've been on council for 10 years plus, and we've never had a raise, and I think it's about time. It isn't that we're gonna get that much money by getting a raise, but we haven't had one in over 10 years.
but I think, doesn't it have to go through like 2 election cycles? Not this next one, but then the following one?
Doesn't matter what it does, we can at least get it going.
What happens if you voted it? The folks that got elected next April would get it, and then the ones that get voted in 2016 would get it.
Right.
So it does take 2 years to fully implement it.
But there would be some budget implications for 2015.
How much you want, Steve?
Well, I wasn't thinking of a figure, I was just thinking that over 10 years, we deserve some type of a raise.
Well, you were,
Even if it is minor, and it would be minor. but
so are you making a motion, or
I
are
am
you?
making a motion.
Okay, so we need something. What are you thinking?
Well, I wasn't really thinking anything, because I think we're restricted by how much we can receive, right?
It's just the timing of when you receive it is my understanding.
Well, I would say 5% then.
Okay, we have a motion by Hackett that council would increase their pay at the appropriate time by 5%. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Hagan. You heard what Henry's explanation of that, then those of you that are up for reelection, or if you are reelected in April, and this is approved, you would get that raise after the April election. The people that were just elected this previous April and would run for reelection and win, then would get that raise, which would be in April of 2016. They would get that raise. So does that understand? So it does have budget implications for 2015, so it is pertinent. Is there any discussion? We have a motion on the floor.
I don't know if you're offering your employees 5, I'll reach 5. Local
For council member.
When I applied for this position originally, I didn't know that it was compensated. And I was actually quite surprised when Gene made me fill out the W-4 form. That's the truth.
You do it because you love it, not for the money.
In this case, yeah.
I gotta admit, Al, when I was elected on, it's the same way, I didn't know we were gonna get paid either.
Any other discussion?
So,
Scott? I'm sorry.
I'm looking at Steve, how can you justify adding more to this budget when we're already gonna charge the taxpayers another 37 cents a thousand? That's ridiculous.
$37.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
But you gotta remember the other budgets in the county are all going up. I mean,
Scott,
this is a
we've
bad
worked-
time, Steve.
We've worked every time, since I've been on council, it's not been a good time, and it's been 10 years. So in other words, it's never a good time, ever.
Well, I'm just
In
saying,
your-
I'm not
in your
gonna
terms,
support it.
Yeah.
Well, we brought it up one other time and we
Brought it up
voted
one other
it
time.
down.
And it was for the same reason.
Right.
It wasn't a good
Wasn't a
time.
good time.
Let's, Paul Hagan had his
I'm
hand up.
just saying, since 1996, when I was elected, there's been one raise that amount of time.
Any other discussion?
Gene, could you turn to try to give you an idea of the cost? I think on proposed wages and fringes, it would be about $1,100 to the budget. Am I reading that right? Well, I'm just looking at the summary sheets under council. You got proposed wages and fringes, and then you got proposed operations.
Well, it's about $150 per.
Yeah. Well, actually, it'd only be 500
so
or 600 because it's only
5,
half the council.
So it's less than $1,000.
Yeah, it's probably $600 to do it.
At least in 2015, if you add the mayor's salary in there, then you're probably looking.
You get a salary?
Like 50 or 60,000 or so, but
Yeah,
you're probably adding another 1,000 to that.
You're
yeah.
adding more zeros to that. Nice try.
Yeah. Somewhere in there. Any other discussion?
That was gonna be my question, is when's the last time, is your salary part of this? It is, okay.
Okay, so if you vote in favor of this, you are adding to the budget for 2015, and you're also voting a raise based on what, how Henry explained it to you. If there's no other discussion, we're gonna have Sandy call the roll.
Deb Fensky.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Dave Peterson. Jillian Peterson. Alan Keeland.
No.
Eric Olson.
No.
Scott Perchatsky.
No.
Steve Hackett.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
No.
And John Lockwood.
Aye.
4 ayes, 6 noes. Motion denied.
Okay, so what that means is that they don't agree with that. If you wanna move on, that's fine. is the 5% too much? Steve, I don't know what their reasoning were for voting no,
I'm not,
but you're
I did it.
done? Okay, all right, let's move on then.
Mayor, I'm done, I think.
Okay, all right. So Henry gave his. Anybody have any questions of what, obviously you're gonna have opportunity to ask questions later again too, but does anybody have any questions of what Henry's proposed, the parts that he's in charge of? Any questions on his budget?
Is that the page 304, Henry? Or not? Or
Yes.
it wasn't ever in here? Or is it in? It's 304?
Yeah, for the comparison of
Right.
this year's budget to next year's, yeah.
Well, 303 does a pretty good
Yeah.
job too of the total, if you don't want to see the detail.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So 303, what 304 is not your details, then that's just a different.
30, right. Well, 304 gives a little more detail than, doesn't give the
Breaks it
full
down.
detail, no.
It breaks it down.
The full detail will be in the later sheets, Scott, that look, you know,
Much
where we
later.
have the revenue line items, and then you've got, you know, the expenses lined out and stuff.
Okay, any other questions then for Henry? Who wants to go next? Brennan? You're the next one on the line here, so on the page, so.
All right, I'm going off my notes as well, but in general, there's, from the operational standpoint, there's pretty much a nominal increase in my budget for next year, including, you know, the staff increases, that were proposed by, Henry, just for all employees. John Lust will still continue to voluntarily furlough, a day out of his schedule, so we budget him at 80% throughout the year. There is a slight increase in some additional, you know, consultant or intern help. You know, we've been very fortunate between myself and Henry to utilize some interns out of Stevens Point. We pay them a nominal fee of $40 for every 8 hours that they're here, so that pretty much pays them for, you know, their gas and some food. They're here about usually 2 half days a week. I've been fortunate to have an individual that has graduated and still continuing to look for a job here twice a week, and he has definitely been beneficial when it comes to redoing our city website, helping with some of the Main Street stuff and the strategic plan. I don't know how much longer I'll have him in the office, you know, if he does find a full-time job. But we increased my budget, I think, $2,000 to compensate for some additional intern ability and time into next year. Other than that, my budget's pretty status quo. There's going to be less travel next year, at least in the sense of my IEDC courses, which the city has invested in for my certification in economic development. That will actually hopefully commence with getting my certification next year, and along with my AICP, which is my professional certification in urban planning. There's 2 conferences that those will be taken at, so that's really where my main travel will be, other than a couple conferences within the state. Henry touched on it as well. I mean, so that's my operational side. There's really minimal increases there. But from the other side of it, Henry touched on it. I'll just, you know, provide you guys a little information. To date, the $20,000 that's budgeted in there for next year. One of the projects within the strategic plan, and you know, I've heard, I think since I've started here, is our East Gateway. The city's invested a lot of money out there for infrastructure, and there's not been a significant amount of development out there at this time. Without really knowing what the market can handle and dictate, you know, we've identified that area as an area for destination retail. But honestly, like anybody else, I'd be throwing a dart at a map, trying to figure out exactly who wants to come here or who can develop here and actually would be supported by the citizens and the surrounding area. So my thought process going into 2015 would actually, it'd be a couple step process, but one of them would be doing a market study, actually hiring a consultant to do a market study targeting the East Gateway area. Would hopefully be able to expound on that a little bit, to look at our industrial parks as well, and even possibly the city holistically. That would be phase A. Phase B would actually be then working with a consultant and a developer to actually come up with a development plan. This was successful in other communities, and I'm utilizing pretty much a similar tactic that the city of Oak Creek utilized with their redevelopment of 80 acres. You know, there is a city hall there and everything else with reconstruction, but they've also worked with the national retailer, came up with a development plan based upon a market study that would actually, and identified businesses that would actually could be supported there. So that phase 2 would be working on developing a marketing plan, a development plan, and working with a consultant or realtor to actually assist with the city and actually go out and start targeting some of these businesses to locate within these gateway areas. So that's where the $20,000 that we're targeting, that's, you know, a TID expense, but there's long-term value that I believe that can come out from that. One, identifying and knowing, you know, what we have some preliminary numbers and some ideas where the gaps are, you know, where money's going out, where money's coming in, but without specifically identifying the types of businesses, difficult to actually go out and start targeting those businesses and those destination retails that the city hopes and desires to have out there. So that's where the main project in the East Gateway area is going to be. And then John and Henry have also and have touched on the Main Street planning. That vision and exercise with East Central, we've been very fortunate to have utilized them for a technical assistance grant, which is pretty much, you know, they're giving back to all the communities through the money that we provide them on a year-to-year basis. That project will probably wrap up in the first quarter of 2015. And then it's our hope and intention that we would actually develop an RFP, as Henry said, to do the next phase, which would be more of a conceptual master plan and design for that area. We did the visioning. Now the next step is actually coming up with a conceptual site plan, has more meat on the bones, but actually starts identifying project costs, what the extent of the project could be, you know, potentially breaking up in phases. We estimate that project actually is probably going to be right around $100,000. We're anticipating that grant money would actually come in. I'm very hopeful, based upon whether it's community development block grants or there's a lot of planning grants out there, and I'm pretty confident that we will hopefully land, you know, one or if not two of those grants next year to offset some of the additional costs that's going to come with the conceptual plan. So that's why we're looking at budgeting $50,000, you know, which would be about half of the cost of that plan for, you know, 2015 and possibly moving into 2016 on that. Other than that, you know, as for the strategic plan, there's some other initiatives that will come forward that it won't have an effect on the budget going into 2015, you know, but there may be some activities going into 2016 that, you know, again, through the TID, but those are my main highlights. And John talked about the spur line. That's the other project that we have going on.
Anybody have any questions of Brennan? If we look at page 303 or 304, Jeannie, his budget actually shows that it's going to be about $19,000 less. Why is that?
The TIF allocation of administrative.
So you're allocating more to the TIF than you did in 2014?
Yeah.
Okay. And how much, do you remember the dollar?
I saw that TID worksheet and it had the admin.
How much more did his go up? You know?
My budget? Oh.
No, the TID allocation, dollar amount.
Thing was about 40,000 more.
So his
Not
his
just his.
TID allocation went up 40,000.
Not just Brennan.
Okay.
I think that was across all positions, Mayor.
Well, if you know what I'm getting at, I'm trying to figure out how much of this. 20?
Yep.
Okay. So his budget is about $19,000 less, but $20,000 is being paid by the TID
Exactly.
instead.
There you go.
So basically his budget is
Same.
neutral, yeah, for from 14 to 15.
What's the reasoning of doing that? Not understanding why you would put even more debt on that.
Well, I think because of that specific project in 8 and then the spur is, yeah, I think mainly John will probably be working on that, but I think just the idea that we'll be spending a little more time, focus on TID. You know, we spent basically the whole year now planning, and now it's time to get to the projects, and And again, it's a good way to try to get a little bit tax relief too, and try to relieve a little pressure off the TID, or the levy.
Any other questions of Brennan? Or related? Okay, the next one actually was just I'm just going down the page on page 304, and these were the outside. And we had a presentation on that where the fire department is basically neutral. The ambulance is, as you remember, it went down a little bit. Emergency operations is the same. Recycling, remember, this is a change here this year, that this is a one-time, or this is a fee that we have to pay to the county now, that $14,558. That will be probably a number next year too, plus what we have to pay to the recycling center too. So we do have a little bit of a reprieve this year in that it's about $3,000 less, but don't expect that in 2016 unless we change how we do recycling in our community. And then the museum, you approved that at the last meeting, and that's in there. That's the historic commission. So that's the other outside agencies, and then we have the police department is next. Chief?
Thanks, Mayor. On the summary page, it shows a budget increase of about 2.66% over 2013. And just to kind of put that into a little bit of perspective, from 2013 to 2014, I had a reduction of 1.21% on the budget. From 2012 to 2013, there was a reduction of 1.95. So it's kind of hard to just look at 1 year and just look at whether it goes up or down. Over the last 8 years, my budget's increased a little over 1% a year. And that's with the full 2.6% in 2015. The only high point that I can really note on my budget is the adding of one patrol officer. We haven't added a position in 20 years. And in fact, this takes us back to 2004 staffing level. We've been short ever since actually 2005 when we lost one PSLO. So our staffing has been short since 2005. And this gives us an opportunity to come back up to full staffing at really a minimal cost. We've taken some money out of overtime, taken some money out of part-time to help offset this cost, which we think we can accommodate with that extra position. And granted, it is only for 6 months at a cost of about $20,000. And keep in mind too that the majority of my budget is personnel, is labor, whether it's wages, benefits, insurance, vacation. That's the vast majority of my budget. So coming off at only 2.6% is actually pretty good with the addition of that one officer. There are some increases in utility expenses, obviously, accommodating the raises, and of course the changes in the benefits also. Other than that, there's only minor nominal increases to the budget related to utilities. Gas, electric, water, heat, all those things have gone up. It's inevitable.
Chief, what would that number be for that extra patrol officer in 2016?
Well, since they're still in the first year probationary status, it'd be about another 20,000.
So about 40,000 it would cost. 42,000 to have another full-time employee.
Right, but keep in mind I did reduce the overtime and part-time wages to accommodate probably. Gene, do you remember how much that was? 8,000?
Or part-time, oh, the overtime too, yeah.
Yeah.
But you do believe by having this extra officer, you will have less overtime pay and part-time pay?
Right, but the full cost of an officer is about 42,000 the first year.
Okay.
But there's reduction in other line items to accommodate that expense.
In the chief's budget, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, you do have a new vehicle in your budget, in the general budget, and then also in capital, you have a second vehicle that will be purchased in 2015, and that doesn't happen every year, but
We have 4 marked squads and 3 unmarked, so for a total of 7. Of the 4 marked, we replace them every 3 years because, right, you want to get it right below 100,000. We get the best value for trade-in, not trade-in, but they get auctioned off. So every 3 or 4 years, we're going to have that double purchase in a year. So
And
that's
this
what that is.
2015 is the year where that
Yes.
will happen. Just so I understand too, that this is union and non-union representation in here, so the union has a 1% pay increase in here, and the non-union has what in here? The 2.5?
The union has a 1.5. It's
1.5? I'm sorry, okay.
1 and 1 for a 1.5, and then the non-rep for the 2.5.
2.5?
Yes.
Okay. And that's in here? Okay. Anybody else have any questions of the chief? John, you're next. Public Works, Street Department.
Okay, on page 305, overall, the street department shows 98.6%, so a reduction in budget, and it's highlighted by a couple areas here. If you look under machinery and equipment, you can see the 2015 budget is $49,000 less than the 2014, and Gene, if I'm correct, that's a reduction in a payment.
Correct. Lease payment.
A lease payment that was
45,000.
paid off, $45,000.
That's not in the 15 budget.
Right. We show a minor increase in the street budget for 2015, streets division under that. Street cleaning went up about 6,000. We have an older piece of equipment now, and we're experiencing more maintenance as that piece gets older. Snow and ice has been increased to 125 versus 115. $10,000 increase. Street lights, that's probably an electric utility charge increase that Gene is showing there, 4.5% increase in that. And those are street illumination lights. In other words, street lights on your block, not traffic lights, which would be a different item. Other than that, we're pretty much similar. There's nothing really substantial to highlight in the operating budget that's a change in operations.
John, we talked about this, and I don't remember how long ago it was, but we talked about looking at, and I'm not suggesting this, I'm just wondering where it's at, where we were talking about turning off every other street light, and did that go anywhere?
As a staff, we have discussed that. We've discussed possible criteria, and then implementing that criteria. I would say there is a potential. I don't know if it would be 5% or 10% reduction. Realistically, in looking at that, from what you're talking about and what we might implement for a policy. It's still out there. I think if the council would like us to pursue it further, it's going to take a little bit of time and effort for us to measure some lights, and some of the longer blocks do have mid-block lighting, especially in the older part of town. We would have to make some value judgments. And an example might be Center Street, the street behind Quick Trip, Center from like Franklin all the way to Harrison. The long block, I mean, you most likely would probably want some mid-block lighting there, so we'd have to establish some distance criteria that we would allow for lighting. Granite, some of those streets. So I don't know. Like I said, I've talked to my staff about it. We have discussed it. We have looked at possible criteria. I think you're at best probably a 5 to 10% reduction. There is potential. We're actually, today we eliminated one street light, so just so you might feel good about that. There was a duplication at a location that we're eliminating one light. So it is something that we do look at and take into consideration. We did South Main Street, there was some duplication that we did some reduction there as well.
Okay. again, if you look at John's budget, then you're looking at about I mean, in dollars, you're looking at about a $14,000 decrease in his street department budget, or it's about just over 1% and a third less than it was in 2014.
I have a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead, John.
For the landfill expense, is that monitoring? Then what also for bridges and culverts, what is that?
Landfill, we do monitor the landfill on Highway 49 north of town. We do quarterly monitoring on that right now, and that is an expense to sample the landfill and test it, and then send the report into DNR. Bridges and culverts, we're required to do, I believe it's semi-annual bridge testing. We contract with the county to do that. They analyze the bridge, they look at deficiencies, and you might have seen, like on Brainerd's Bridge or Royalton Street, recently we did some sealing of the cracks in the bridge. It might be modifications to guardrail, it might be whatever. It's a pretty small item. You know, at culverts, we have some culverts in town we do replacement work with, but again, it's a very small item, but that's specific for those responsibilities.
Anybody else? Any questions? Eric?
What's the engineering? Can you just explain that a little bit?
Well, it's my fees, and Gene could probably explain it better, but it relates to consulting fees that we might have for whatever minor projects or office supplies, my expenses.
It's
are in there.
mainly John and Roger.
Yeah. It's more of an what we'd call probably administrative.
And your salary is split between the street and the water and the sewer also.
And TIF.
And
yes.
TIF,
Mhm.
some. How about Rogers? Is his split, or is his directly just street?
The street, yeah.
Completely street.
General fund.
So just you? Yeah. Anything else for the street department? Recreation, Aaron?
Thank you, Mayor. If you look at your summary page, you'll see the Recreation Department is up 1.87%. When we did submit our budgets to Gene, basically all we did within those budgets is move from line item to line item for projects that we know might be happening in the parks, such as parks facilities maintenance. We have a roof that'll be an extra $1,500. So it was a 0% increase as far as what we submitted to Gene. The extra dollars you see in there, when I spoke with Gene, appeared to be electricity costs, diesel fuel, gasoline, and utilities, things like that. And Gene might be able to touch on that a little more in depth. As far as I did want to touch on, just because I got this question in our break from Scott, I did want to touch on a capital project. I know we touched on that before, but the Augie Austin Gym is the big one in the capital in the project list for our department. Scott had the question, now that the roof is under construction, does that mean, or is there a possibility that the floor will not have the problems it's been having? And just as a reminder, the floor is having the problems that it has been having because of the subfloor that is underneath it and it's laid over, not because of the moisture that was coming in through the roof. The idea was to get the roof fixed before, because it needed to be fixed, first of all, and in case we were ever to do the floor project, that was done before a new floor went in and could protect that. So just in case anyone had that question or was thinking along Scott's lines there.
So I'm looking at the recreation, and you have recreation administration, which I'm assuming then would be Aaron and Andrew. Is that those two in there?
Part-time staff, the office staff.
And the office staff there too. And then I'm thinking that Andrew was not on
100%.
100% last year,
This
so,
year.
yeah.
And also, one other positive, wonderful reason that budget went up is I changed yours to a family plan health
Yes.
insurance, Aaron, since you're
Right.
having a family next year.
Yes, that is another reason.
I guess we can't help that, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, Andrew was not at full pay for all of 2014, so that would make sense that in 2015, he will be at his full pay for the whole year. So that's not just the 2.5% pay increase, that's also, right, okay. Any questions, Aaron? Scott?
Maybe Gene can answer, like, let's just say the youth center, it's, you know, 107%. Is that pretty much just reflect the utilities like you were saying, or?
No, that's all
I
about
can,
pro.
yeah, I can speak to that.
Okay.
As I was saying earlier, there were some line items that we shifted. So if I felt that we didn't need it, and maybe there was a line item within the parks that we didn't need, I might have moved $1,000 or $1,500 and took away from that to put into youth center.
Okay.
I know I did add, I believe, $1,500 in youth center supplies, 1,000 or 1,500, because of some of the efforts we'll be making as far as perception goes for youth center. So if it was added to that, it was taken out of something else.
Yeah, I think if you look at the two lines there, the rec programs, youth and the youth center, you know, they basically even each other out, don't they? I mean, within a certain few dollars, so. Any other questions, recreation, budget? Okay, we have, library, Dominic?
Thank you, Mayor. Our only real increase is in part-time wages, which is about $7,000. And that's to move Emily, who is our teen librarian slash children's support staff, to just a teen librarian, and we'll be replacing her hours with part-time staff instead, since she is in charge of the entire 4 grades in high school and the middle school 6th grade as well. So you give her some additional time to do some programming for the teenagers in the high school and middle school.
If you look at that summary, which I'm looking at on page 305, that just blanked out on me, it actually shows that there's about a $21,000 increase there, Gene?
Yeah.
So, what's that? Do you know what that's related to?
Exactly, all.
It'll be the 2.5%. Yep.
So it's the 7,000 plus 2.5%. Okay.
No change.
That's okay. If that's what it is, that's fine.
Wanted to know other, nothing else jumps out as a big,
Okay.
other than the
Okay. Any other questions of the library? Any questions of the library? You have the adult leagues, that's just status quo, but then if you go to the airport, Paul, are you, anything there? I mean, there's, it's about an $8,000, well, $7,000. I'll give you the benefit here. It's about a $7,000 increase.
I did not get a chance to talk to Pete about that.
Okay. Gene, you have any? Absolutely.
look at your fuel numbers.
So then our revenue should be up to cover that then if it's fuel, right? Okay. Yeah, we're just looking at expenditures here, obviously, but, yeah.
He increased, the 100 lead fuel, 15, and reduced Jet A by like 11. That's a +4 on the revenue side, and then he did increase, expense. I think he's anticipating an increase in the cost of fuel. Between those two, he's adding, no one is less, so.
Well, hopefully the trend stays that way, cause the
It is going
jet
down.
fuel has went down $1.50 a gallon in the last
Yeah.
6 months, so it keeps going.
To give the manager.
So that includes 2.5% for Pete in there, right? Okay. Okay. If you see anything else, Gene, let me know. Why don't we go to, anything else from the department heads at this time? Let's go to back to page 327 here and just, Henry gave you an overview of the capital, but, any comments there as you look at that?
We didn't look at any other scenarios then with Brad or anybody, just the option 4 and this total, right? And then what happened to short-term borrowing? There was,
Well, that was, basically dealt with, Scott, with the debt. He's kinda calling that a prepayment. And I did ask Rick, the 2 projects in the bottom of the list, the police squad and downtown rehab, in my mind, definitely the squad, right? One of our debt policies is you never borrow for a longer term than the life of the asset or the purchase. So, you know, this squad's gonna last a little longer, right? Cause it's not in the patroller. Is this going to?
We're looking at 7 years.
Yeah, so it's not at 10. And then the downtown rehab, I mean, that's sort of a study. So the way they've done it essentially is we're gonna get those paid off, before the life, expires on them, if you will. That was one of the ideas with what he's calling a prepayment.
And that goes along with the same question I asked you too, about paying off.
Yeah, well, that's, and that was a number, he started at a little bit higher number. I'm thinking that first year in 2015, it was like 112,000. And after we had our first meeting with the mayor, he said he'd like to, before taking that to you guys, to see it reduced. He wanted to see that levy increase reduced. And that's one of the ways we did it, was to reduce that borrow amount. The idea being that, at least the direction we got before today, was that all these projects were important. We've been deferring projects, and so that they're brought forward at that option 4, Scott, right? Because that's where council left it. And again, there was a little massaging the 11th hour with the airport tarmac, but to make, to account for that, we reduced the City Hall library renovation. We thought that was a reasonable way to keep the amount the same.
Okay, anything else on that capital plan there?
Was there any thought of going to the painting part, any thought of having our own people do that? I presume this is a dollar amount you pulled out for a commercial painter? Yes, no, or do we know, or?
These
or
are
is that
taken
materials?
off that study, if you remember, a couple years ago. That number, when we started, was $600,000 to renovate this building and update it. We are making the roof work because we have a really good annual maintenance program. Twice a year they come and they check the roof, and that's a $60,000 cost. But if you remember, with the federal stimulus, we put a new boiler in and we did some upgrades, so that cost isn't in here. So these are budget numbers that are taken from that study. There's some things we can do. You can notice that there's been some interior painting done in the building, and I think that was one of our thoughts here in reducing the interior painting, is maybe do a little more of that in-house. But the big number, I think, is in my mind of that, is trying to figure out if the carpeting number is where we need to be. And until we get some firm pricing and know that the project support is going to be, we don't know. So we might need a little more to get that done. I don't know, than what's budgeted.
So, although we put a list to the capital items that are on there, Henry, these, before we actually do the projects, council would have to approve the cost on it, right?
Well, what I
mean,
see
'cause
is this
these
is
are
the
just
general guideline.
Yeah.
And then now staff knows that we can run with this, and then we would work to get the prices for these various things.
Because they're all estimates right now.
Right. And I think we have to have that discussion, because when we talked about this after the mayor gave us the direction, we had those discussions. Could we do a little more in-house? And I think once we know that you'll support it, we can, talk about that again. But yes, these are just estimates. And they're getting to be 3-year-old estimates. Well, maybe 4, actually. I brought the 4. Maybe 12.
So if you were to go back to page 301 then, which was actually Henry's summary of what, I'm looking more at the top, where what this would be, the total tax levy and the levy itself, which is dollars, not percentage, but, is gonna go up $109,000 from where it was in 2014, which obviously the levy has something to do with the tax rate too, which is the mill rate. And that mill rate does go from $9.89, which it was in 2014, with this proposed budget, to $10.26. So that would be 37 cents per. Would be an increase of 37 cents per thousand. Again, just like the other budgets, you have the opportunity tonight to approve this budget, or if you'd like, we still have time. We officially have to have,
Yeah, the 18th, that would be scheduled.
So, I mean, you want to wait for the public hearing before you approve the budget? You certainly can. Seems to make sense. Although, if you have some suggestions or some ideas, this would be the time, or within that time frame would be the time for you to let staff know what your thoughts are. I don't know if you want to send emails to Henry or whatever, or me, or whatever the case might be, or you want to sit down and go through it if you still have questions after that. But again, what is give me the timeline again. The public hearing is
The 18th.
18th of
Because we
November.
will publish, you know, we gotta publish a notice of the budget, so we would include these numbers. It doesn't mean it can't change, but this is what would go in the paper. And then we have to have a 15-day notice. So that would put us at the 18th, November 18th council meeting. We publicize it
So
for that meeting.
if we waited till November 18th, we would pretty much have to, I mean, we have a little bit of time, but not much. We'd pretty much have to approve that budget on the 18th. Because we need to get that over to the county by the beginning of December, is that right, Gene?
It's like always December.
Yeah, so we have to make sure we approve our budget so we can get that over to them. So, wait for the public hearing? If you have any ideas in the meantime, any thoughts, whatever, don't be afraid to share them. We'll move on then. Just a couple of things. Brennan, remind us again, the City Planning Commission meeting has been changed for November. It's on Tuesday, the
11th?
the 11th instead of the 12th.
Correct. Due to my last IEDC course, I had to move the Plan Commission meeting. And, you know, I'll give advance notice to the Plan Commission, since it is actually a public submission now. Bethany Homes is proposing a substantial addition to their campus. You guys have some people probably heard about it within the community, but there will be the public hearing for that. We are moving the public hearing up to 5 o'clock actually that night. There's actually 2 items on the agenda for that evening for the public hearing, but Bethany Homes is the main project that will be heard that evening. I'm anticipating that there'll be some public here for that project, but you know.
Yeah, the public hearing is being held in front of City Planning Commission, so council members that are not on City Planning, if you'd like to attend, that is the date. It's Tuesday, the 11th, if you would like to sit in on and ask questions for that matter, too. There will not be a public hearing in front of City Council. It will be in front of City Planning Commission.
The public hearing, so the applicant will be actually making a full presentation that evening, so you will see site plans, you'll see elevations and renderings of their proposal. There's a couple different phases to the project, but in short, there's a 3-story building that they're proposing along Berlin Street, and then there are some additions to their other portions of their building that are just going to be 1-story additional space. They're again, it's, I think in total, it's right around, I think, 60 to 70,000 square feet of building addition onto the campus.
And the reason we're having the public hearing is because of the 3 stories?
It's twofold. They need a special use permit to operate that type of facility within the residential district, but there is also the rezone for the height of the building. That is correct. Within the R1 residential single-family district, you're allowed a maximum height of 35 feet. They are going to be proposing a height with the peak of the roof at 43.
Okay. All right. Bethany did do their due diligence and have a public hearing, basically, of their
They had a
own.
neighborhood meeting. They know that, this is a substantial addition to their building. They're taking all the neighbors' comments and considerations to heart when they've actually made this proposal. They've worked with staff on this project John actually was, I think, able to attend the neighborhood meeting, so he is aware of some of the public comments and some of the concerns from the neighboring residents. I know that they've had some follow-up meetings with some of the other neighbors out there to address some of the additional concerns of the project. I know that not everyone, I would say, is in favor at the moment. There's still some concerns that, as I do my review, we'll still try to minimize as much as possible the impacts on any of the neighbors that they feel, that this project would have on their property. So the review hasn't been done by staff yet for the project, but that will be done by the public hearing.
Okay, awesome. The only other thing, don't forget our first council meeting in November is on Wednesday, November 5th instead of November 4th because of the elections. And so same time though, it will still be 6 o'clock, but it will be on Wednesday, November 5th at 2014. We don't plan to have anything ahead of time at this time yet, do we? Okay. All right, we need a motion to adjourn then.
Second?
Motion by Lockwood, second by Keelan, that we adjourn till our next regular scheduled meeting, which is Wednesday, November 5th, 2014, subject to call. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. We're adjourned at 9:27 p.m. Thanks, everybody, for participating and attending tonight's meeting.